Good evening and welcome commissioners, participants and interested parties to the November 7th, 2024 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. Commission is now in session on a Zoom platform. I'm Tom Bell, the acting chair of the Cohasset Conservation Commission, and we'll be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Cohasset and Cohasset Wetlands Protection Acts and the Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. If anyone in the audience has questions for the commission, put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of the page. And when called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. You must include your name and address to be recognized. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission is our town's conservation agent, Charlotte Pechtel. Angela's out, right? Okay. Okay, I'm going to take a roll call vote of the commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Steve Magnell.
Steve Magnell, present.
Valerio Romano.
Valerio Romano, present.
Tom Bell, present. Tonight we have a quorum of 4 commissioners. We'll be taking all votes via roll call vote, with each commissioner answering yay, nay, or abstain. We're going to start with a public hearing for RDA 2417 for a walkway at Veterans Memorial Park. So, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on Zoom platform for RDA 2417. Charlotte, will you introduce the applicants?
All right. Yes, we have Glenn Pratt from the town of Cohasset. Hi, Glenn. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Great. Did you want me to pull up the RDA packet, and did you want to walk us through what you're proposing?
I think that would be great. I don't know why my camera's not working here, but anyway, you can hear me, so.
Hold on one sec. I'm gonna pull up I can pull up the plans. You want to pull up the plans? You want to pull up the packet first, or?
The plan and the photograph probably is best.
Okay.
If you have to.
Okay, we'll do the plans first. This is just the plot of Veterans Park, right below the Elm Street condos. And then I have the Glenn. I have the proposed memorial wall up and the photos.
Yeah. So, so you want me to? Why don't you leave that photo up? I can talk better, probably. So, good evening, everyone. The Veterans Memorial Committee has been building out Veterans Park for 54 years. And this wall we're proposing is finishes off listing the only 2 wars we haven't listed yet, Revolution and War of 1812. So our proposal is we come along the top of that existing seawall, just build on top of that, no excavation, no disturbing it. And just as you look up the walkway towards the condos, you see a little patch of grass, probably around 200 square feet. We propose to replace that grass plot with permeable bricks like they have on the walkway at the new condo walkway. So it blends better, and it all pulls the whole our park plus their open space together. So it's a very little additional hard surface. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. So that'll come right over where you see that little piece of grass, and it'll blend the 2 properties together. And that's it. That's our intent.
Okay. Commissioners, let's start with you guys. Do you have any questions or comments?
I do. Glenn, where is the memorial actually going? You're building it on the seawall there?
Right on top of the seawall, yes.
Okay.
And it's a low 18-inch wall, like the round one that you see out there by the flagpole, and
right.
Probably about the same as the one you see behind the benches. I didn't measure that, but it's probably about 18
inches high.
High, yeah.
Okay. And
it has, if you go back to the other picture, it has granite plaques where we list the names of the servicemen on there, and then they're at a bevel at an angle, like you see over on the on the round one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Um,
Steve, you're grumbling. Are you going to talk?
No, it looks pretty straightforward. I assume it's going to either replace or layer over the seawall itself.
It's built right on top of the seawall.
Okay,
We have, there's some engineering drawings that the building inspector has looked at, so we know how it's going to fasten, and it's right on top.
okay.
So, Mr. Pratt, I would, is the, we haven't seen the layout of this, but is it going to be as wide as the existing walkway to the east?
Well, we're going to, that the bluestone that's on there now will be replaced with the same brick. So we have the exact same surface. It's just, it'll be the newer bricks plus the grass.
And the width will be up from wall to wall, or will it, Charlotte,
Yeah,
if you could move to the next photograph, please, so we can get, well, move until we can see a distant shot. There,
Yeah.
that's good enough.
Yeah.
So in the background, the walkway has a specific width, and then a walkway comes in from the right there, and
Yeah.
then we have bluestone. Will it be as wide as that background?
No, it'll come to the stone wall that's behind the granite benches, and it'll end at the end of the stone wall. It doesn't go all the way out to that walkway that goes to the right.
I see. Okay. And what'll happen to the benches? They'll be just placed.
I think they'll stay right on. They'll stay right on it.
It's my only question. Charlotte, do you have any comments about this? Did you?
No, just
establish any
I
conditions?
think Glenn, you did say that you were gonna mimic the pavers that
Yeah,
were
yeah.
recently, so you're gonna take this out and then you're gonna pretty much mirror this all the way down.
Right, we'll continue it all around. Right.
And it doesn't need a stormwater permit. There's no net increase of 500, but I don't know if this is technically considered pervious. I think it is technically impervious, but it is between two walls, so, yeah.
Yeah, I would suspect the bluestone isn't pervious.
No, the bluestone
Pervious as
definitely,
well,
yeah, I
so-
don't think the joints in between are pervious. I think it technically, the captain's
Okay.
walk, yeah, it's
They're
impervious.
grouted joints, so they may be in rough condition, but they're grouted joints, so.
Yeah.
Joints, so it was obviously never intended to be
Mhm.
pervious.
No.
Yeah. Okay, well, then I will make a motion to issue an order of conditions for.
Oh, sorry, it's an
Oh,
RDA.
oh, it's an RDA, sorry, yeah, okay. So then we're gonna issue a negative, what, 3.5 on this?
Technically, I mean, it's also overlapping with floodplain, so -2, -3, and -6. And then the -3 in the buffer zone for the work in the buffer zone with the salt marsh. I don't know if you guys want any conditions, but yeah, I think because it's technically overlapping resource areas, -2, -3, and then -6 for the bylaw if you choose a negative.
Okay, so I move to issue an order of conditions with a -2, -3, -6. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And the conditions would be our standard conditions? Or do we have any conditions at all here that we're?
We don't really
I,
have
I would just,
standards
I
for
would just say this Valerio and it's really obvious and I'm sure it's going to be done, but the memorials that are going right onto the seawall, just make sure any debris or, what's left over from attaching them just gets brushed down and taken away as opposed to going into the water. But that would be my only condition. And I'm sure it's obvious, maybe not even worth saying, but that would be my only thought.
Mhm.
Okay. So I don't think we need a silt sock or anything here, just a cautionary statement to be careful not to let any grout slip over the side. And at least on the marsh side, And any grout that is left over be disposed of properly. I assume it's going to be grouted in there, or Mr. Pratt, is it going to be bolted in or grouted in?
Well, they are reinforcing rebar that's drilled into the top of the seawall into the stone
Okay,
stonework.
yeah, okay, that sounds good. All right, so with those conditions, then do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
So we're gonna have a roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valeria Romano,
Larry Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. That passes 4-0-0. And I'll move to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer. And what else? What other regulatory
I think,
territory do we need to include in that variance?
I think just the 50-foot buffer to the salt marsh.
All right, so I move to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer for RDA 2417.
Berrigan,
And,
second.
okay, so Kathy Berrigan, how do you vote?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Larry Romano,
Larry Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. That vote passes, that motion passes 4-0-0. Public hearing for RDA 2417 at Veterans Memorial Park is now closed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
You're
Glenn.
welcome.
See you. Thank
Looking
you.
forward to it.
Thank you.
Next is the public hearing for RDA 2418 at 17 Atlantic Avenue to remove a pool and retaining wall. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on the Zoom platform for RDA 2418, 17 Atlantic Avenue. Charlotte, will you introduce the applicant?
Hi, Amy. Is the applicant joining us tonight? I don't see them. I don't know if they want to raise.
I'm not sure, but that's okay. I'm here to
Okay.
present for her.
Perfect.
Hi, my name's Amy Wolfson. I'm with Amy Martin Landscape Design, and I am representing the Morris residents at 17 Atlantic Avenue. I'm going to share my screen so I can go over the project with you. So 17 Atlantic Avenue is across the street from a salt marsh. So a portion of the property is within the 50-foot buffer and the 100-foot buffer to a salt marsh, which is over here on the left side of the screen. And what we would like to do is remove the existing pool and retaining wall and fence, which you can see in this picture. We're not going to put a new pool in. We'd like to remove the pool, remove the fence, the vegetation that's growing on the pool and fence. And 17 square feet of this area is within the 100-foot buffer to the salt marsh. So what we'd like to do is remove all of this, and then this would become a sloping lawn. And outside of the 100-foot buffer, we are proposing to do a plant bed, which would help catch some of the runoff before it gets to the salt marsh and slow it down and clean it, filter it before it goes all the way down the slope to across Atlantic Ave into the salt marsh. So this does seem like a net benefit to the site. You know, we are removing impervious surface, but only a tiny bit of it is within the 100-foot buffer.
Charlotte, you want to show a couple of pictures that you took on your site visit?
Sure. Can I take over, Amy?
Go for it.
Perfect. I was waiting for them to load, so thank you. Yeah, so this is the existing pool in front of the home, and the majority of the pool, except for that bottom left corner, is not this corner, the opposite one is just outside of the 100-foot buffer. So it's atop an existing wall, and then the pool's in here. And then this is the sloped front yard salt marsh across the street.
Okay. Commissioners, you've seen it. Any comments or questions? Okay, last call. Okay, so I will,
I did have, Mr. Chair, some draft
sorry.
conditions for this
Okay.
one. I didn't know if any commissioners had questions, but I can pull them up if you like.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, just because this one, it's removing a pool, so just had some recommended conditions about pool water drainage. So I can, give me 1 second, sorry. Where'd they go? There we go. So Amy, I can't remember if we talked about this, but obviously we don't want any pool water drained in the driveway, road, or the catch basins in the street. Usually the standard MO is you drain it over existing landscaping, but since this is a sloped backyard, I don't know if the commission is open to, having it drained in a way where maybe it doesn't just shoot down the hill, but can also be trickled down over existing landscaping. So I mean, there's either way, we do have best management practices for pools and spas. So I will we can include that as a condition, and I can issue it with the determination. And then, we did talk about this a little bit on site, just about equipment, vehicles, materials, just not being staged or parked within the 50-foot buffer or on the sloped yard, just to prevent any, instances. And pretty much just use the driveway parking area as much as possible, and not park on the street or things like that. So, but yeah, I can take any of this language out. I just didn't know what you guys thought about plan for draining the pool.
We actually didn't have a plan yet for draining the pool, so I'm glad you brought that up. But it does seem like a slow trickle that somehow has some kind of filtration would be helpful.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to pump it uphill to achieve what you want to achieve, because we really don't want the water entering into the 100-foot buffer. So you should be well above that. It is a steep slope, so if you can pump it to the top of the lot and trickle it in there, that'd be good. Otherwise, you can get a service to come and pump it out into a truck and cart it off.
Okay.
So one or the other. I mean, I would think it'd be best, if you're going to trickle it, that you actually take it to the highest elevation on the lot before you start pumping. Take your outlet pipe. I suppose we ought to think about, if you're gonna do that, we should think about a flow rate that is adequate for it to infiltrate, and it's hard to predict that in advance. So maybe we specify that the rate be slow enough so that there's little sheet flow, little or no sheet flow, at least for the within, say, 10 or 20 feet of where you're discharging the water. Is that, I didn't state that very clearly. Do you understand what I'm saying? Charlotte, how about you? You're gonna write
Sorry, I was typing as you were saying, so the drainage rate shall not result in sheet flow within the discharge area. Does that kind of make sense? Like, just
I would say you're gonna have a certain amount of sheet flow in that discharge area. The question is, how far down the hill will we allow that to be before it has to infiltrate? And I mean, what we don't want is to discharge it at the top of the hill and it ends up in the street anyway. We really need to infiltrate all of that water.
Maybe maybe before it enters the 50-foot buffer.
Well, the 50-foot buffer is pretty much the street, isn't it? The
It's
north side of
not-
the street.
Not quite.
like a little bit maybe not halfway, but it's like a little bit less than halfway up that slope on the front yard. Cause 100 feet is just at that bottom left corner of where that wall is. So the upper half of the slope is the 100-foot buffer, and then the lower half to the toe of the slope and into the street is the 50-foot buffer.
In practice, it may be hard to really do this, you know, to.
Yeah,
to
that's, I mean,
infiltrate.
Yeah.
we have BMPs about, obviously, yeah, so I mean, you drain it usually over existing landscaping as much as you can to allow for any infiltration into the ground before it reaches anything. And you obviously aren't allowed to directly discharge into rivers, streams, catch basins, etc. And obviously we wouldn't want it to drain into the driveway or the road because that just goes right into the wetland. So,
So maybe we should specify that it be trucked out. It just, it's hard to imagine somebody's gonna stand there for 4 or 5 hours playing with the valves to make sure that it's not flowing into the street.
yeah.
And if it
Amy,
does flow into the
that
street, it
would be
defeated the whole purpose
I think
of the
so.
condition in the first place.
Yeah, that should be feasible.
Okay.
Is the pool still full or is it partially empty?
I'm not sure how full it is.
It's got a cover on it, so we can't tell.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I think that I would prefer to see a condition that it be trucked away. I mean, if it wasn't such a steep slope and it wasn't so close to the resource, it'd be one thing, but you've got a really steep hill. That ground's not gonna wanna accept that water, because if it's like my yard, it's dry as a bone out there. And
Mhm.
so it's gonna would take a lot to even get infiltration started unless you dig a trench or something. So I don't see a practical way of discharging it on site. Now, if you think there's an engineering solution for this, we could continue and you can come back with a different plan.
I think it's feasible to get it trucked off site.
Don't we also have a restriction or prohibition on chlorinated water,
We do.
which would probably make it more practical to truck it out?
But it probably hasn't been chlorinated in quite a while. I mean, if they used it this summer, maybe, but if they haven't used it in a while, all that chlorine's probably evaporated.
Yeah, and that's one of the BMPs as well to, dilute the water and obviously.
Neutral pH and no
Yeah,
chlorine.
yeah, exactly. So I think the second condition too about following our BMPs for pool and spa water, in terms of proper pH levels and, removal, discharge, things like that. We do have a BMP sheet that has a lot of that information, but I think the condition above just saying that we want to see it taken off site, just given the sensitivity with the sloped front yard and the wetlands right across the street. Amy sounds like that's fair.
Mhm.
So I think that could work.
Yeah.
But if you want to consult with your client before committing to this more expensive means of disposing of the water, we can continue.
Would it be possible to accept it as is written now, and then if we come up with a different solution, we could bring it to Charlotte?
Yeah, I think so. We could do that, and you can come back, and Charlotte can just come back to Charlotte, and she can handle this administratively, I think.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we can keep it like this and then, yeah, I'm fine doing that. If you guys are okay with that, if we do end up needing to do the trickle kind of thing, I can work with the applicant about that just to make sure there's no sheet flow and runoff right into the wetland.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you've got condition number 1 where it says shall be taken off-site to prevent
Yeah.
damage. So, okay, so let's leave it at that as the condition, and with the understanding that if you come up with a different solution that looks like it's going to work, that can be modified administratively.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thanks.
So, what are we talking about here? Another negative, determination and the conditions, Charlotte, same one?
Yeah, so if you chose a negative determination, it would be -3 and -6 for the work in the buffer zone, and then not subject to any additional review under the bylaw.
Okay, so I move that we issue a -3 and a -2 or -3, sorry.
-3 and -6.
-3 and -6 determination for the RDA at 2418 at 17 Atlantic Avenue with the conditions that are shown on screen and the understanding that they can be modified administratively for the infiltration if it's feasible. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Okay, Kathy, how do you vote?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valeria Romano. Valeria, you're muted.
Unmute. Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, I was having trouble
Yeah.
unmuting. Valeria Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. Finally, we don't need a variance for this. This is in the 100, right?
Thank
So we're
you.
good. So the public hearing for RDA 2418 at 17 Atlantic Avenue is now closed.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Next is public hearing for NOI 2430 16 Quanahasset Trail for proposed additions. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2430 16 Quanahasset Trail. Charlotte, will you introduce our applicant?
Yes, so I think, hi Xander, are you doing this? Are you presenting this one?
Yeah,
Awesome.
this one's
So
me.
we have the applicant, Matt Broderick, and Xander, could you introduce yourself for the record, please?
Yes. So for the record, Xander Orm, Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. Here representing the homeowner, Matt Broderick, for his proposed addition at 16 Quanahasset Trail. So currently the lot contains a single-family home with a paved driveway coming from the street up to the side of the single-family home ending about here. And then there's
We can't see the plan.
Oh, what? Okay, I pressed share, but I guess it didn't work. Did it work this time?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So yes, existing single family home here, and there's a paved driveway coming from the street, and then ending about right here, adjacent to the dwelling. And then there's some hardscaping and landscaping around the dwelling as well. So the entire single family home is between the 50 and 100-foot buffer to a bordering vegetated wetland, and there's also a potential vernal pool that's been identified. It's Mass Mapper or DEP identifies it pretty far into the wetland, but we assume that it coincides with the edge of the BVW, so these buffer zones are for both. And so, yeah, so the existing dwelling is within the 1,500-foot buffer, and a good portion of the paved driveway is as well. And so all the applicant is proposing here is just an addition to this section of the house. It'll increase impervious within the 100-foot buffer by 168 square feet. No impervious is proposed within the 50-foot buffer, and the proposed work will be no closer to the resource areas than the existing structure. I think the existing structure's closest point is at 59.7 feet. The proposed structure is at 69.7 feet at its closest point, and there's also this paved driveway running in between it there. And so we propose 2-to-1 mitigation since there's 2 resource areas here. So it's about 350 square feet of plantings. We have a planting list that's sourced. All the plants are sourced from the Cohasset Conservation Planting List. And we can take a look at that if you all want to. And we have erosion control proposed around the addition, stockpile area and around the plantings as recommended by the agent. We're requesting 2 variances, one for the plantings within the 50-foot buffer and one for being within, theoretically being within 100 feet of a potential vernal pool. And that is it from me. Thank you.
Charlotte, do you have any comments about this?
Unfortunately, I couldn't make it out to this site, but I just had some recommended conditions for the project overall. Mostly just, you know, looking at the mitigation planting area and just figuring out the, you know, exact limits of that before any mitigation work continues or starts. But for the most part, pretty at least straightforward for me. There is still a variance request that was put in place as part of the plantings that are partially in the 50s. So the applicant has submitted that for your approval. And I don't think, oh, sorry, Xander, I don't think there's no bedrooms being proposed, so you don't need any other board reviews for this?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple of concerns. Mr. Arm, you just told us that you have the potential vernal pool is coincident, the edge of it is coincident with the wetlands edge. Is that, did I hear that right?
That's how we are describing it. Yes, just, you know, being conservative.
So that means you've got 100-foot area around your vernal pool that's a no disturb zone.
So according to the Cohasset wetland regulations, they're section 26D, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It says that structures within 100 feet of a vernal pool which pre-exist identification or certification may be maintained but not expanded closer to the vernal pool. And so that's what's going on here. We're not getting any closer to that vernal pool. This is about 10 feet farther from the closest point that already exists, not including the driveway, which is in between that area.
So where are you adding, and can you zoom in here and show us
Yeah.
where the enlarged part of the footprint of this house is, or is the footprint changing?
So it's enlarging here. So this is an expansion here. This is keep staying the same, and then you have an expansion here. So it's 168 square feet in total of new impervious. It's really just 2 expansions in footprint on either side.
Yeah. My other concern is I see you've got a cesspool and an existing leaching field. Has that been tested to see if it's Title V compliant?
I'm not sure the answer to that. I mean, obviously, you
If
know,
you've
it's
got to put in a new sewer system here, that's going to be also an issue.
Well, I mean, as far as I know, it's working. The applicant, the homeowner currently lives there, and is, you know, occupying the home. So I don't believe it's been tested, but it's, you know, it's functioning. He's living in the home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just noting these things because this property is adjacent to two significant resources, very close to it. It's been there a long time. I understand that. And it's having a cesspool there still is obviously a threat to the resource. And it, you know, so if it passes, if it hasn't failed, then it's really nothing we can do about this. But
can I, and I'm not sure of the protocol here. I apologize.
Go ahead.
Matt Broderick, I'm the property owner. Just to let you know that that cesspool system, when we put an addition on sort of the southern part of the building there, I forget exactly, 15, 20 years ago, had it fully inspected then, and it was fine according to Rosano Davis. We have it pumped every year, Rosano Davis, and they're on top of it. So yes, it's an old, sort of obviously an old system, but it's functioning well. And I just had it pumped, and they take a peek at it every time, and for what they do, check it out. So they're at this point comfortable with it.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay, commissioners, any other comments or questions?
I was just wondering what's already in the area that you're proposing to do the remediation?
Just lawn
Okay.
landscape area.
Well, can I hop in here again? Sorry.
Yeah, go
That
for it.
area right there, Xander, that is
Oh, there's
actually that's a bulkhead now.
I see it now, yeah.
And so, at this point, we've got it as, we've got it as permeable, but frankly, that's a big chunk of granite currently. And so the only thing we're doing there is actually putting an access porch where that bulkhead is leading out. And it essentially covers that same area that the bulkhead is in now. And then the other side is that rectangle to the west. Yeah. And that is just between, that's at this point gravel, and that's just a walkway to a door. But between the existing kitchen, there's a porch on the southern side there. And that's just getting, basically turning it into a sort of rectangle from these open areas. Because the house itself, originally, it's in 1860 or so, the original front door was pointing south, which is now the railroad, and we don't have an entrance to the house besides that one on the western side, and that's just a kitchen door. So that's the plan.
I was actually asking about the area that you're going to do the plantings in, or what was in there now.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, that area, and the reason here, and I think the reason I'm sort of more than happy to discuss this with Charlotte and whomever. Sort of my take from the folks at Merrill was that ideally we would want to do it somewhere in the zones, and given the fact that our western border, we have the driveway, and then my property line is sort of right at the driveway. This area is full of sort of wild rose type of things, but there is a lot of open space in there. So, but I'm sort of more than comfortable to have the conversation and sort of walk it with whomever to decide. I just that was a space that is in the zone. There is area that we can plant in without disturbing other things. It just isn't like okay, here's your 30 by 100 strip that is completely empty. So.
Okay.
Any further questions? So, will somebody make a motion to issue an order of conditions here?
Mr. Chair, I did have a couple draft conditions. I don't know
Oh,
if you
sorry, I
want
missed.
to look. No, no, that's okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to look at them now or if you want to.
Yes, yes.
Okay. One
I'm out
second.
of practice, Charlotte.
No, you're good. No worries. Xander, can I take over here?
Oh, yes, 100%. There you go.
Yeah, the Zoom updated, so it's like, do you want multiple people to share? I'm like, no.
Yeah, it looks different now. I
I
think
hate
that's
it,
why I got
yeah.
confused earlier sharing the screen.
So I can take this condition out, seeing as there's no bedroom count, because that was Board of Health's concern. They just didn't know if the addition would result in an additional bedroom that may impact the working cesspool system. So I can take this out unless you want to leave it in as just a safety thing. Like, I guess, is it okay, Mr. Chair, if I ask the applicant directly, do you plan to put in any bedroom space? It's really just a bump out of an existing room?
You're, Mr. Broderick, you're muted. There you go.
I got it. Thank you. No, we don't plan on adding any extra bedroom space.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just because that they may or may not impact the permit, they may impact the plans, and then it may or may not have to come back to us. So that's good. So yeah, just 3 simple conditions then. Just that you know, I apologize, Mr. Broderick. I wasn't able to get out today. I really wanted to, but unfortunately I was held hostage in the office today. So the exact location of the restoration area shall be located in the field by the applicant and reviewed and approved by the agent prior to planting. Just so you know, maybe we want to shift it. We'll just make sure that it looks good before any planting work starts. And then the final list of proposed plantings shall be submitted to the agent in writing for approval prior to any planting work, just because sometimes what's on the plan, maybe we want to change it. So that's something that we can work out together if the commission's okay with that. And then that the erosion control barrier along the down gradient limit of the restoration area shall be installed prior to planting. I think that's already on the plans, but just wanted to make that clear that we put that barrier in. It may not necessarily need to go in prior to construction, but it can go in obviously at a later date once the addition work is done. Unless you want to do the work concurrently, that's fine too. But if any commissioners have any suggestions or additional conditions, given that we are working within the 100-foot buffer to a vernal pool, so the applicant has obviously requested a variance for the work within the 50, but also within the 100-foot for the vernal pool. So if you guys want any other conditions, we can add them now.
I have none. Commissioners?
I'm fine.
Okay. So I move to issue an order of conditions for NOI 2430, 16 Quannahasset Trail, with the conditions that are on screen and will be entered into our minutes. Do I have a second?
Berrigan second.
Okay, Kathy, you'll vote first.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valeria Romano,
Valeria Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. I'll also move to issue a variance for work within the 100-foot buffer to the potential vernal pool and the 50-foot buffer to the bordering vegetated wetland. Do I have a second?
Berrigan second.
Okay, Kathy,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio,
Valeria, aye.
Valeria Romano.
Sorry, Valeria Romano, aye.
Thanks. Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. Public hearing for NOI 2430, 16 Quannahasset Trail is now closed.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Next, we'll consider a request for a 3-year extension and amendments to NOI 2129 at 125 Doane Street for infrastructure for a commercial flower farm, it looks like. Charlotte, will you introduce the applicant? I think we know him. You're
You
muted.
do know him. Hi, Will.
Hey, sorry, I was joining and I missed that last part there. Hello, everyone.
I'm sorry, did I cut Xander off too early, or is
No,
Deb?
I'm presenting, it's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. All right, you
Um,
want to share your screen?
yes, I can do that. Let's see here. So, Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So, as Tom said, there's two things here. There's an extension because we didn't complete everything that was under our original NOI, as well as an amendment for a commercial flower farm. My wife Victoria is going to be running, hopefully, if we get approved, the commercial flower farm. And the background behind that is grow things locally, reduces transportation, greenhouse gas emissions, things like that. Provide another thing to do in the community, basically. And she loves flowers, so it all works out. And to orient you to the plan, our home is here. The driveway, which is a common driveway for 4 houses, is down the center. And then to the right-hand side is most of the new work. You'll see a proposed barn here. This is actually a reduction in size from our approved size. It's less than 40% the size that it was previously. And that's 2 reasons. We did find a lot of ledge out here, so it's a little bit tougher to build, as well as the addition of this commercial agriculture that we would hope to do back here. BVWs on both sides of this. This is kind of a small ridge between 2 swamps, more or less. And you'll see the BVW in blue back here. The red line around here is the erosion control barrier, which goes right along the proposed tree line. And in addition to the barn, we have about, I think, 2,000 square feet of planting beds that will be used for various different types of flowers throughout the year. She has a whole plan for what grows when and what grows in shade versus not shade and things like that. The other change is under the original NOI, we put in this infiltration here, and this barn runoff was going to tie into it, but both the runoff from this roof and this small greenhouse roof, we would propose to capture in rain barrels and use that for irrigation for the flowers. So I think that probably covers anything, and I'll leave it to you for questions.
Charlotte, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, a couple things. And Will, I also see that I think you've pulled up the material. I don't know if that might be helpful for your diagram that you drew that kind of shows seems to be limited space on the property to put this. And I think you said there's a specific reason why you chose this area for the lighting. And on this side, where the proposed garden bed and everything, I can pull up photos too if it's helpful, but there's a pretty steep slope that pretty much drops down to where the wetland is. And over the years, I have seen a lot of trees fall down in those areas. So the trees are sitting on very little soil, whereas the trees on the other side behind the home are definitely more of I think they have more space, they have more soil, they seem like just healthier, more stable trees overall. So some of the trees that have to come out for this proposed project, they aren't like on the slope, but they definitely are in the area where a lot of trees are falling down. But I did, obviously, Will knows our rules about if the commission wants to see replacement for that. And then I did propose a operation and maintenance plan for this kind of project. There is an administrative stormwater permit that's also inclusive for the project. But I did ask Meryl and Will to kind of draft out a construction and a long-term maintenance plan. I don't think the details are in there yet, but I did want the details for how the greenhouse and the garden area will all be maintained. And so we can work together on that. I did have a recommended condition to put in those details into the long-term maintenance plan, but Meryl did draft a pretty great start to the plans. So those are in the commission's OneDrive for review, if anybody has any other comments on that. But that's mostly what I had so far. And then just a quick note for the commission, we did look into this beforehand, but since this is a private residential property that was not knowingly previously used for agriculture, it does not qualify for the agricultural exemptions and different performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah, I think it has to be used for agriculture within the last 5 years.
Yep.
And just to point out on the plan what Charlotte was talking about, you can see here all these elevation lines very close to each other is where that drop off is in the back. And from there to the left of that on the plans is where these trees fall down all the time because presumably they're probably all on some sort of ledge, I would think, but I don't know.
What are the species of the trees? Well,
I think there's 7 that we show here to come down, and I think 4 of them are some sort of pine. And there's only one large deciduous tree. I think it's a I don't know if it's a beech or not. There's a lot of beech back here that are all struggling anyway. And I think one is an oak tree.
Yeah, there's at least one oak. I can't remember if it is the 16-inch tree, but yeah, it's a handful of pines, one oak, and I believe one of the smaller species might be the beech.
so are you going to have to bring soil in for your, I'm assuming these are raised beds of some sort, right?
Yes, yeah. So the base soil would not, the ground level to make a level place to set them would not be imported, but the planting soil would be, yes.
And so what do you propose to bring in there? I mean, I'd assume loam, right?
Yes, Victoria, my wife, has she already started this year in planters with this, and she's got the soil from, I'm sorry, I don't remember it's Wild Maine something or other that's OMRI certified organic sort
Coast
of
of
stuff.
Maine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a handful of varieties that use like crustacean shells. seed,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the topsoil sources are kind of questionable, where that soil comes from and what might be in it. And so that's good that you've got something that's certified.
Yeah.
Good to hear. So without the agricultural exemption, how does that then comport with our Wetlands Protection Act and our bylaws?
It would basically just be subject to, the work in the buffer zone, and then in the act and under our bylaw, can't obviously have an adverse impact in the 50-foot buffer. And then, I think, Will, I don't know if you want to walk through it a little bit more. I know I briefly mentioned it, but, as part of the variance request, you had shown lack of other available options
Yeah.
where to put this that may or may not be as feasible.
So I did a near map, or is that what it's called? Near map study of our yard because Victoria wanted to know where it would grow best. And she does have both semi shade tolerant things and other things that require a lot of sun. So you'll see on our plan, we have the more shade tolerant stuff kind of in this side yard outside the buffer. But where we need more sun, I kind of put this together to show where all this shade is, and then consolidated this all into a plan of, we have our infiltration here, so we can't do it. This is shaded from the house. This is an easement that we can't build on. This is shade from trees, and this is ledge. So that kind of left us with this L shape down in the corner. That this ledge back here, this 10-foot drop, 8 to 10-foot drop, if you cut the trees back to it, the trees behind it are that much lower, so you don't have that much shade back there. So that's why it seemed like the best location to get the most planting square footage.
So I noticed in your application that you brought up the term limited project. Does this fall under the that rubric according to the state?
Yes, yeah, because it is agricultural.
Okay. Even though there's no exemption because of
Right.
prior. Okay, so you do, so at least what little I know of the limited project statute is that at least in our case, it's usually brought up with regard to access to a piece of property that might cross a wetland or whatever.
Right.
But in this case, you can claim a limited project for an agricultural project.
Correct, yeah.
So that makes you square with all of the rules and regulations here stated. local.
Yep, exactly.
Great. Okay. Commissioners. Questions?
I have two.
Sure.
One is you show in one of your drawings, you show a greenhouse within the planting beds.
Yep.
So that greenhouse is a building which will be inside of the buffer zone? Inside of the.
That's right. That's right. It's not traditional building as in like the barn or the house with a foundation or anything. This would be set on top of the ground. There won't be any foundations in the ground. It'll only be 6 or 8 feet tall, and it's just to grow plants in the winter.
And how do the beds drain?
Through the bottom, through the soil. So there'll be this whole area will be soil, and then the beds will be right on top of the ground, and in between will be stone paths. So the entire area will be permeable straight into the groundwater.
How are you going to keep the deer out?
6 foot tall deer fence. Yeah,
Okay, and so that's what we're looking at there with the open
the circles,
circles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Electric?
No, not if, I don't think we'll need to.
Not yet, huh?
Yeah, they come walking through and eating my grass now, which if they eat the grass and not the flowers will be good.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that. They'll go for the flowers first.
Right.
I probably
So-
already missed it, but the nutrients for the flowers aren't going to offend the buffer zone, the drainage, right? Was that
Yeah,
already
great question.
discussed?
Great question. And same thing. We're gonna have all OMRI certified organic fertilizers of any kind. I don't even know that like Victoria did some, like I said, in pots this year and didn't need any specific fertilizer. Everything grew pretty well just in the soil that she had. So I don't even know that we'll need anything extra.
Okay. All right.
Have you estimated how much water you're going to be able to capture from the greenhouse and the barn?
I have not. No, I
So,
don't know that.
so you're going to collect it in a barrel or barrels
Yes,
and just kind of wing it and add barrels as needed, or what?
exactly. Yeah. So hopefully set up some sort of drip irrigation system connected to it that is always supplying water. But if you do get a big rain event, then yeah, we're gonna have to figure out what the right number is. I'll do a little math ahead of time, but no guarantees my math is right on something like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. To make that drip irrigation work, you're going to have to pressurize it. I believe gravity's at least right here, gravity's, you haven't got enough head here to make it work.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure on the where the barn is a little bit higher, but yeah, I don't think 10 feet of pressure is probably going to be enough for that. So
No, I have a fairly extensive drip irrigation system, and
yeah,
know from experience that it takes a bit of pressure to make it. The more lines you have, the more pressure you need. So
yeah.
okay. Any further questions, Charlotte? You have just the conditions.
I was reading the limited project because I must have glazed over that portion of your application. Well, I'm sorry about that. But
No
yeah,
worries.
I was reading through it. It does seem like I was trying to find the reference because it was 10.533R. I don't know. Do you have that in your application that I can pull it up? But I don't think there
The
were.
paragraph reference.
Yeah.
I don't know if I put it in here.
Yeah, at least for new
Oh.
land proposed in agricultural, it was
I think the Cohasset wetland regulation just refers to the state.
right.
So,
It does. Yeah.
But I don't know that I put,
Yeah, you
310
did. Yeah, general provisions,
EMR
limited projects.
1053,
Yeah. Yeah, work on land primarily in the flowers nursery. Yeah, so it did, yeah. Yep, but that just for the commission's reference, I wanted to pull it up, but that would be the 10.53, the general provisions for limited projects. There's a whole list of type of projects, and this is one of them for work to be primarily used in the raising of, and then it lists a bunch of things, and yeah.
Yeah, I tried to summarize what
Yeah.
mattered out of it into this so that you could see it.
Mhm.
So Charlotte, you have some conditions prepared?
Mine were pretty simple, actually. I probably should have looked more at the limited project stuff, but I just mostly wanted to recommend, Will, is it okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, yeah.
Where is it? You beat me to it. I mean, I will defer to the commission on this, but these are things that we already talked about. So I think was it 6 or 7 trees coming out in the buffer zone?
I think 7, let me count them.
7, yeah. That's what I remember 7, but I could be.
Oh no, 6 in
Six.
the 50, 6 in the 50 and 1 50
Got
and
it. Okay, yep, okay, that's where it is. Yeah, so 6 in the 50, 1 in the 100. So it's up to the commission if you want any tree replacement. And then what I already kind of mentioned, if, just finalizing that long-term operation maintenance plan to include the maintenance details for the greenhouse, the garden bed, just to make sure that we understand what's going on. And then like a long-term maintenance plan, you would just record that and then you would just use that moving forward, and then obviously you would be falling under the different standards under the Wetlands Protection Act for that specific area, I believe. So, yeah.
So do you have a tree replacement plan?
We don't think there's anywhere feasible on site to do it, both because the only reason we're taking them down is because of the shade, and then everywhere else is taken up by like infiltration or easements or whatever. And also think that the benefit of converting lawn back to planted area that's going to bring pollinators and filter the rainwater and all this other stuff could offset the 7 trees that are lost.
There's absolutely no spot for some cedars or anything like that.
I don't think so. I don't know where we'd put them. That isn't either, like I said, going to create shade over there or danger to the house or anything like that. There's already, I mean, we're in the woods surrounded by the forest, so or there's already a bunch that could fall in our house.
Yeah. So what have we done in the past here when we didn't have room for a replacement? My recollection is that you buy some for a town to plant.
I don't know how we haven't really done that consistently, but that can be something that if the applicant and the commission agree to, we can do that. But I think, Will, you already had to plant 1 tree for your original order of conditions, correct?
Yes, yeah, we did.
Okay, and you did do that already, or are you still working on it, or?
We didn't do that yet. That's
Okay,
that's
yeah,
down
that's
on
what
the-
yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, I mean, it's up to the commission if there's no place to put them on the site that is feasible or possible for them to survive. I mean, yeah. I don't know if you want to make a donation or if the commission wants that.
I think the intention of the tree replacement requirements have been to ensure the quality of the wetlands. And I think that we are improving the situation that's currently there. So there'll be many rooted plants in space that is currently lawn, in addition to where the trees were. So, and they'll be grown multiple times per year because we're going to switch out the flowers as they're cut and grow more there.
But they'll be rooted in pots, right? They won't be rooted into the ground.
No, they'll be in beds that the water
Oh,
from
okay.
them drains through into the groundwater.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I thought it was
replenishes
all
the-
pots.
Nope.
No, they'd be in beds. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Awesome.
only other thought I had too is like if the commission wanted to see any sort of like border, with any like a few woody shrubs or something instead of trees. I mean but that's just a thought, so I'll defer to you guys. But if we can't put trees anywhere, then my next best thing was obviously any sort of shrubs or anything that might be able to enhance that area even more than the planting beds. But if you guys think the planting beds are sufficient, you can just do that too. So.
I mean, I feel like in this rare case, Will's improving the overall, what's going on there too. This is my first time I think I've heard that we've had, 6 trees coming out in the 50 and not requiring them to get sort of somehow replaced somewhere somehow. But it sounds like for the way Will describes the project, it's overall going to be better, for the, sort of the ecology of the area than it is now. So I mean, I won't push it, but I would defer to the other members of the commission.
Well, I mean, I agree. We've since I've been here, we've always required tree replacement. And what's more, all of these mitigations have been with native plants, and so the commercial flowers that are going to be grown don't really fall in that category.
They
So-
do still filter the rainwater and bring the pollinators, so we'd like
They
to make
do.
that case, yeah.
They do. I wouldn't disagree with that.
But they don't provide habitat for
We,
the
you
rest
know,
of wildlife.
my recollection
No,
is we've
not
always
outside of
required
pollinators.
mitigation with native plants and so I think we probably need to do it.
What goes in this clearing area that you have behind the beds?
What about along your right of way, your driveway that you share with your neighbors? That's an easement, right?
Yeah, can I share my screen again, just so I know what we're looking at? So Steve's question, I'll go there first because you asked first. Clearing area?
Yeah, you have a proposed clearing of 1,300 square feet behind the beds.
That points to this whole area from the silt sock in red to the current tree line, which is out here in green. This area where that specifically points to, there are no trees. This is more, well, there's a couple trees that have fallen back here, but there are no trees over 12 inches in that area. There's some vines and things like that back there. And then Tom, your question was?
Well, I just wondered,
Over
you know,
here.
you said that's a common roadway.
Yeah.
And so there's an easement there that
Yes.
presumably belongs to everybody on the road, right?
Yeah.
And is there an opportunity to plant trees along its edge someplace between there and the south end of it?
Yeah, I don't know if I have it in this aerial or not, but it's already fairly treed. I don't know if you can, or I can pull it up on Google Maps. There are trees down that entire side.
Yeah.
Because that's where our current drainage for the driveway goes into kind of a gully that's all treed. But
Yeah.
I can show you on Google Maps if you want to see.
What's that area that's brown patch with I presume that's a silt sock up there that we're seeing along the edge.
Yes.
Is there any room up there where you can sneak in a few trees? Not in the, I mean, on the north side of the, I presume this is oriented north-south, on the north side of your silt fence there?
Over here, that is the one, where the one that we were required from last time has to go right there. But that's the one we haven't planted yet, yeah.
Yeah, so there's no room for a couple more there, huh?
Right. Or I mean, like Charlotte was saying, if we wanted some sort of smaller plants there, they might fill in better than a lot of trees. You know what I mean? And that would be a good location because I don't think there's a lot of ledge under there. I think that's probably well watered and it gets a little bit of sunlight. So I think it would work if that were of interest.
It looks like it must get a fair amount of sunlight, at least for half the day anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I ask a little more about this fund? So how much would that be? And is that really something that's used by us? It's all sort of, in the time I've been here, we haven't really done a lot with this fund idea either. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
gonna be honest, Valerio,
here, but yeah, go ahead.
this is definitely, it's new for the town, Valerio, so I don't know. I don't really know the schedule or, you know, and also DPW, there's a street tree policy. They choose from a different selection of trees that differs from
And they
ours.
would spend it out of our fund if we actually.
Well, like
took
if
it.
he were to donate, for example, to the tree fund instead, that money would be used by the town to plant trees, but they would go probably by the street tree policy, which is a different selection of trees that are different, I'll say, from our list. Coming from a different background with, you know, being more conservative with smaller ornamental trees and, you know, we don't, you know, we obviously,
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know how it would be used, when it would be used. I'd have to, you know, double check, and our DPW staff are already they're already pretty
Will, you were on the commission for quite a while. I mean, what if we? I mean, I'll obviously leave it to the rest of the board too. But what if we let this hang out there, sort of as a condition that you and Charlotte would resolve this administratively? You know,
Yeah.
and I mean, you know what we want, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I think Tom's right. I mean, you've been on the board a lot longer than I have, and also my time. I mean, I had to let Tom be acting chair tonight, but in the time I've been chair and before that, I've never seen it where we didn't replace trees within the 50. And I get that you're improving the property there, but we gotta do something with that. And I think Tom made that pretty clear as well. So I would let the rest of the board, you know, chime in on it, but do you think that would be a resolution to keep this project moving along? Or do we want to ask Will to come back with a planning plan, even though right now it doesn't seem like he has any place on this property here? How would you guys like to see this go forward?
Well, let me ask another question first. Charlotte, do you know whether it has to be planted in this 50-foot buffer? I don't think it does, right? Trees
I
can be
think that's
planted
our
in any
discretion.
50-foot buffer in town, right?
Yeah, I think that's our discretion. I mean, I don't think the bylaw says anything about that in terms of tree replacement. But for the variance request, in order to ensure that the project isn't going to have an adverse impact on the buffer zone or the resource area, I think a lot of the variance, you know, parameters would probably be in our court. So I think, you know, Will, I'm happy to work with you if we wanted to walk the site and figure out some little patch areas where we could put in potentially trees, but realistically maybe woody shrubs and perennials to kind of mitigate and replace the biomass that's going to get, you know, taken down for the garden. So
Yeah, are you guys still seeing my PDF or Google Maps? Okay.
we're
hang
seeing
on.
yours.
Looking at the plan.
Yeah, let me share this just as a thought really quickly. Sorry to delay everybody else behind me. I know how that goes. You see Google Maps now?
Yeah.
Okay. So just an interesting thought that I hadn't thought of before this, but our property actually goes back here to the entrance. The entrance to the parking area for Wampatuck is an easement to the town on our property. So we could plant stuff back there theoretically, outside the easement, but on our property.
And it is within a buffer zone?
I mean, there's
Yeah, I bet it is.
this floods right here all the time. The water is always at the street level, right inside the entrance. So it has to be, I would think.
So that looks like a viable solution to this. Maybe you and Charlotte can go out there and have a look and see how many you can squeeze in there.
Yeah.
And pick appropriate species that are going to work there.
Yeah.
That's okay. That'd satisfy me, and it would resolve our apparent inconsistency if we don't do this.
Every project is different. I just want to say
Every
that,
project
but
is
I'm fully agreeing with you that we'll go plant stuff back there for sure.
Yeah. Hate to be put in a position where,
I know.
okay.
So typing that out briefly, I can pull my screen back up, but
Oh, yeah.
Will, just had a quick clarification question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I should have done this earlier, but after reading through the limited project, you're not changing the topography too much in that area, correct? Because that was,
No,
yeah, I was gonna
no,
say,
we're- yeah.
change the soil or the existing topography or the, okay. And I don't think this is such a small area. I was looking at the USDA plan for sedimentation erosion control. I don't know if we need that. It seems a little for an area of this size. I don't know, but it does say there shall be no change in existing topography or existing soil and surface waters of the area.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. I'll pull up the conditions again. Sorry, I was just typing those out. But I think applicant shall work with the agent to draft and finalize a planting plan composed of native trees and/or shrubs and perennials I cannot spell, selected from the commission's approved planting list within the buffer zones, either on the property and or within the, what was it, the town easements?
That's our property. It's just, there's a town easement on it for the parking. So that's still our property back there.
Oh, okay, somewhere, just somewhere on the property then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do we want to say 50 foot or do you guys want to leave it to,
Well, the
50.
only thing is I haven't and didn't want to
Yeah.
reflag because that wetland is on state property.
right?
So I
Yeah.
wouldn't, yeah, that's the only thing. So maybe you should just say that in the vicinity of a whatever potential wetland on state property or something, you know what I mean?
Okay,
I don't know how
within,
you word that, but
I
that's
don't know, the, somewhere within the buffer zones on the property, I can be general.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
If the commission's okay with that, I can keep it general. I mean, we may or may not be able to get 50 feet, but maybe we can still obviously maintain any plantings within the 100 to at least kind of make up for that biomass.
Sure. You could start up near map and then turn on the layers that I gave you that show the buffers.
Sorry, I still haven't uploaded those.
Ah.
I know, I'm sorry. It's like
No.
such a minor thing that takes 2 seconds. I just haven't done it.
Here, let me do
If
it
you
then.
put the
Sorry.
Title V buffers on
You can, yeah, you
Mass
can.
Mapper, yeah.
Yep, yep. The Mass
Yeah.
Mapper has the 25-foot nitrogen sensitive buffer.
Hang on a
Sorry,
second.
Tom. It's like literally on my list of,
No,
that just
don't
keeps-
worry, Charlotte.
goes into the graveyard of, oh, I
I-
need that.
I'll call it up and let's take a look here. Hang on.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we are definitely well past the 15 minutes. We're getting into 25 plus.
Yeah. Now, why is it not going there? Oh, there must be a Doan Street in Quincy.
Yeah, there is.
That's the problem. There we go. Oh, it looks like you're really in luck here. Because that whole parking lot is in the 50. Let me, you wanna share here,
Share time.
pass the ball here. Is it ready?
You haven't shared yet.
Yeah, okay, I was just waiting for you to tell me to go.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can you see it?
Now
Yep.
we can, yes.
Okay, so here's the parking lot. This is the boundary of the wetland. This is the 50-foot buffer here.
Yeah,
So you're good.
makes
And
sense.
let me turn on the tax parcels as well, so we see that your property actually goes there. Come on.
Yeah, that was it. See the black line back
Oh,
there?
yeah.
Parking lot?
Oh yeah, this is gonna work great. Okay, I mean, it just seems like you can just find some areas around the edge of the parking lot here and do your thing.
Yep,
Perfect. Okay, so you just need to come up with trees off the list and you and Charlotte can do this administratively.
perfect.
Okay,
So is this language acceptable to you guys? Just, we kind of, I can be more specific, but I was just trying to be general just to give us that
no,
flexibility.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. And then we'll update the long-term maintenance plan with, the greenhouse and the garden area maintenance, and then just, that would be your homework, and then obviously moving forward with the agricultural stuff under the Wetlands Protection Act.
So do we need a continuance here or?
I'm okay with these conditions to work with Will on them, unless you guys wanted to see a more finalized plan, but
No, I think we've worked through all the issues. It's just a matter of implementing them. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
and we have to vote on 2 things, the 3-year extension and the amended, and then variance requests, obviously.
Right, okay.
Charlotte, the stormwater is administrative, right? So it doesn't need anything.
Correct, yeah, so
Okay.
it wasn't on the agenda for tonight. I would
Okay.
just, I would write something to just kind of update the administrative permit.
Okay, so all we need is order of conditions or extend the order of conditions with following, okay.
And an amended order of conditions, yeah.
Yeah, so I move to amend the order of conditions NOI 2129 at 125 Dawn Street to include a 3-year extension and the conditions on the screen that are entered into our minutes. I have a second.
Berrigan, second.
Kathy, then?
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valeria Romano,
Valerio Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. I'll also make a motion to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer.
Berrigan,
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. That doesn't need any more than that. So go ahead and second then.
Berrigan, second.
Okay. Kathy, vote.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. The public hearing for NOI 2429 at 125 Dawn Street is now closed.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Good to see
Will.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank
Luck.
you.
See
Bye.
you, Will.
Bye.
Okay. Let me move down here. Next, we're going to consider requests for an amended NOI 2114 and stormwater permit 2115 at 42 Rust Way for infrastructure for construction of a sports court, pool, a driveway, and wall changes. Charlotte, will you introduce the applicant or his rep?
Oh, sorry, did you just read the public notice? Are you good on that?
I did. Oh,
Okay,
oh,
great.
it doesn't need a public notice, does it? I mean,
No, it is. It's an
an
amended.
amendment, it's an amendment. Oh, so I do need to do that, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, coming right up. Let me back. Okay, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2114 and stormwater permit 2115. Those are amended NOI 2414 and amended stormwater permit 2115. Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone. Jeff Hassett here with Morse Engineering. I see Rob Curatola is on the call. He is the builder for this project. Charlotte, if Brian Frazier is on, if you could promote him, he may or may not be.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay.
I was blanking.
And I'm not
up.
sure if the owners, Brian and Kayla DeMullen, would be calling in.
I don't see them, but I'll
Okay.
keep an eye out for them.
Okay, sharing my screen, this is the revised site plan submitted for the amended order of conditions. We also submitted a revised landscaping plan. This is a single-family home project that was permitted under an order of conditions and a stormwater permit in 2021. The property is about 1.6 acres, and of that, 0.9 acres is upland. The wetland is in blue. The 50-foot buffer is the red line, which is essentially the limit of work, and the green line is the 100-foot buffer. Right now, the house is almost complete. The utilities are installed. The driveway's roughed in. They haven't done any of the hardscape or plantings yet. What we're here for is an amendment to add a swimming pool, which is 15 by 30, adding a pickleball court that is 27 by 54, slightly reconfiguring the driveway, mainly in this area, and specifying it to be paved with the exception of a P-stone parking area. And then just more minor adjustments to the hardscape and landscape throughout the entire project area. So these changes have been designed in accordance with the applicable regulations, the stormwater bylaw, the wetlands bylaw, and the DEP regulations. All of the work is still outside of the 50-foot buffer entirely. We are, not that it's a requirement, but we're calling out for all the patios and walkways to be pervious, and we have a detail on the plan for that. We increased the stormwater controls because of the, the addition of the driveway, the pool, the pickleball court. We are specifying a leach and catch basin at the low point of the driveway. That'll take all the runoff from the driveway itself, and there'll be a curve on the downhill side. And coming off the road, the driveway slopes down and then back up. So that's right at the low point with curving. We'll get all of the runoff. We also increased the size of the subsurface infiltration systems. There's one here and one here. We made this one larger. Ends up being in total 33% larger for stormwater. And we've updated the stormwater calculations. It is still a considerable reduction in rates and volumes of runoff. And we also submitted an updated planting plan, which is this year, done by Brian Frazier. It's a big increase in the plantings. The number of trees has been increased from 5 to 36. The shrubs and ground covers from 79 to 320, and the perennials from 67 to 111. And all of those plantings within the 100-foot buffer, which is this line, are native. So the goal for this project is to wrap it up in the spring, now in the fall, as well as in the springtime, and get it fully stabilized in the early spring. With that, I'll pass it back to you.
Charlotte, do you have any comments here?
Yeah. So the only change that was done so far was just extending that stone retaining wall along the driveway just outside of the 50. I did look at that with Rob yesterday, took some photos of it. There's a small area that Rob can also go into more detail about just past the retaining wall. Jeff, is it okay if you zoom into the driveway area? Would that be okay? The wall was extended, to kind of help with keeping the site contained, but also safety access, because it is sloped. So there's an area right at the end of the wall that may or may not experience erosion over time or during rainstorms. And so we had talked about potentially looking at maybe including a little bit of a stone riprap kind of, at that slope just before the 50-foot buffer, just to kind of stabilize that sloped area along the driveway after the retaining wall. And then looking at the pickleball court, as you can see, there is a pretty large ledge outcrop. So looking at the land alteration bylaw, it does say if the project is subject to a building permit and or stormwater permit, a special permit for the ledge may or may not be needed. But I think I would partially defer to the building inspector on that, but just wanted to note that, there is going to be a lot of ledge taken out for that court specifically, but the grading does show that it's going from 65 down to 60. So it's not being built up. It's going to be built, in like a slightly lower elevation. And then I think there's Jeff, is there a second system going in, or are you just reconnecting it from the sports court to the existing systems in the back?
We always had 2 roof
I was
driveway
there.
systems.
Yeah.
We made this one larger.
This one's larger. Okay.
Because
Yeah.
we have a drain in the corner of the pickleball court. Everything slopes to the corner, and we're
Okay.
adding the runoff.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So you made the system larger and you're connecting the roof, or the sports court and roof runoff into that system. Okay. And then I did speak with Brian a little bit about the landscaping plan. I did note that, we wanted to see native species in the 100-foot buffer. Outside the 100-foot buffer is whatever you want. So the modified plan that was submitted to us includes native species from our lists in the 100-foot buffer, but then obviously anything outside the 100-foot buffer is, free for all. I didn't know if the commission had input on that, if you, were able to take a look at that. And then I did propose a few draft conditions. I can go over those if needed. And then we did receive a letter from an abutter, which, Mr. Chair, do you want me to go over that now, or do you want to wait a little bit for commissioners to weigh in, or?
Yeah, we'll hold that for the moment.
Okay. Yeah. So mostly that was it. And then, yeah, work is still staying within outside the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah. Well, one of the first things I see is there's lawn going in the 100-foot. That's not native.
Yeah, for the is it the area that's behind
You want to put that landscape
Yeah, we can pull it up.
Landscape plan. I mean, the approved plan had lawn in the 100-foot buffer. It's
Oh, it does.
considerably less lawn on this plan with all the plantings.
Oh, okay, so it's already been approved, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. I guess my next comment is, that's not just lowering the ground a little bit. We're going from 67 down to 59 feet. They're gonna move a lot of rock here.
Yeah. A portion of it has already been removed. The previously plan had a driveway turnaround that went into this area. So
Okay,
maybe a third of it's already been removed. But yeah, there will be more.
and the hatchered area around the side had contours on it before, so what's going on there?
Say that again.
Scoot up to the drawing.
I'll go to the site plan with the contours.
Yeah, site plan. Yeah, so you've got, it looks like some new contours that's around the pickleball court here, so.
Yeah, that's
Oh, I see.
That's steep grading showing the ledge cut.
Yeah. I was looking at that upside down, sort of, in my head. I was thinking, how does that work? But I hadn't noticed the contour labels. Yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah. So
Oh,
beyond-
Charlotte, to address your first comment, when about the erosion at the end of the wall, this driveway is now going to have a cobble curb on the side of it. So essentially that's going to intercept any runoff coming in this direction. So you're only going to have the runoff from this small area between the house and the driveway and the wall. So I think
Okay.
once that driveway is established, there's going to be almost no watershed to that area causing the erosion.
Okay, so that area that you see just above the catch basin, we were looking at it from there, and I don't know if obviously maybe the final grading wasn't put in, but you can definitely see like a low point there.
Yep.
So just kind of just concerned about that area where the retaining wall ends, and you know, I didn't know based off of the final design if you would still see that, but it did look like there would be, you know, from the existing grading that's you know, towards the abutting property, it looks like that it would already be pointing in that direction, you know?
Yeah. But what I was saying is right now you have all the runoff coming to that point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more runoff coming there now than after the driveway's put in and the curbing intercepts the runoff and puts it into the leach and catch basin.
Mhm.
So I think we'll be able to get that stabilized. You know, if we'd have to, we'll put some stone down in that corner.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be an issue though, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the catch basin hasn't gone in yet. The driveway hasn't gone in yet. It's just what we were looking at the site, you know, mid-construction. So it did look like a vulnerable point with runoff.
And we could get some riprap in there now too in the short term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least, I mean, just something to maybe stabilize that, you know, from the bottom of the driveway up to where the retaining wall is. I mean, right now, I mean, again, the final grading hasn't been put in, site hasn't been stabilized yet. So maybe at the end, if it still doesn't look like it's maybe where it should be, I did put in like a template condition about maybe looking at putting that in, but we can obviously make it optional. It can be up to the commission, but that were just like our on-site thoughts. Rob, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but maybe with this new modified reconfiguration with the driveway, maybe we don't need it. I don't know.
I don't know whether it's in our jurisdiction or not, but we recently passed a dark sky lighting bylaw. Are you guys compliant here?
Right. Did you design the landscape lighting for that? Or did you just do the
Am I on now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, currently there's no landscape lighting. There's no, I mean, I have no idea about the house. But I don't think it would, I mean, it's under an existing permit, so the house, it's already been approved.
Yeah, so I don't think the lighting has been reviewed under previous filing or designed at this point, but we can certainly let the homeowners know to encourage them to shield all the lighting and use down lighting, no spotlights.
Sure, it'll make them more welcome in the neighborhood, I suspect.
And it'll look better, yeah.
I'm
sure that, yeah.
Okay. Any further questions from the commission?
What are the effects of the pool? That wasn't in the plan before, was it?
No, the pool is no. It's still within the outside of the 50-foot buffer. You know, I assumed you would ask about maintenance of the pool and draining it. And I did recently get a copy of the Cohasset Conservation BMPs, recommended O&M for pools. And if you want to include that as a condition to, to maintain the pool and drain it in accordance with those regulations, that's fine. It will be one of the cartridge style filters that don't backwash.
And the drainage that was associated with the pool, with the area before, is taken up by that infiltration system that's also new.
You don't really get a lot of additional runoff from the pool, just because the patio around it is pervious. And other than a 100-year storm event, the water that lands in the pool will stay in the pool. We do model it to overtop if it gets more than 6 inches of rain. And that area also previously has ledge outcrops. It's on the side of the hill, so you make it flat, making it more pervious.
Are they removing any ledge there?
Yes, we have that test pit right in the middle of the pool where we hit ground ledge 3 feet down. On the deep end, the grade's coming up 2.5 feet, 3 feet. But so it's not a huge ledge removal, but there will be some.
Are you going to remove the rock? You gonna blast?
Rob, blasting or hammering?
I think at this point, we feel that blasting might be the better road to go, less impact. So that's generally our assumption. That's the path we would like to take.
Sorry, you were breaking up there when you first began to speak.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think the general consensus is that blasting probably would be the better route to go. Would be quicker, would cost, a little bit more for the homeowner, but less impact in the neighborhood.
Yep. Good. Commissioners, any other comments, questions?
No.
Charlotte, your conditions?
I didn't know. So Jeff, I forwarded you the one letter we received so far. It was, mostly, I can pull it up too, but it was mostly regarding, just the concerns overall with the stormwater impacts from the original project. And then obviously with the additional amount of work, some of the trees, a lot of them in the buffer zone are not in a good state to begin with. And then obviously there may or may not be any additional impacts to those trees. And I think some of the questions in the letter were also addressing, are there any plans to replace those trees and offset the drainage impacts into the buffer zone more than what's already occurring under the current approved project?
Yeah, so I read through that letter, and it basically it was stating that in the northwest corner of the property, in this corner, there are some dead trees, and they were alleging that it is potentially from more runoff coming from this property. This area draining to that wetland is just a very small portion of the overall watershed that drains there. More likely than not, if that area is getting more water, it's just we're having more frequent rainstorms other than very recently, and bigger rainstorms. It could also be something like a clogged outlet pipe. There's a culvert leaving the wetland. If that's clogged, that happens all the time. But as far as this project right here, we've run all the stormwater calculations, and it's a pretty significant reduction in runoff in the post-development conditions. So I really don't think this project is having any impact on it. In the near future, with this revised plan, there will be 36 trees going in, as well as, we got how many? 320 shrubs and ground cover. So this area is going, in the springtime, is going to be heavily, densely planted and suck up all that water. So.
Yeah, so I think maybe just for the public too, would you be able to just quickly go over the amended drainage design to just kind of explain that a little bit more and any potential runoff impacts or mitigation to what was already approved? That might be a little helpful, I think.
Yeah, sure. So in the pre-development conditions, this site is all ledge running off directly to the wetland on pretty steep hillside, so you're not getting a lot of infiltration on the site. In the proposed conditions, it's becoming more flat. There's going to be more loam, more plantings, and then also in the areas where we did test bits and we could get deep enough, we're putting in 2 dry well systems. So all of the roof runoff goes to those, all of the pickleball court, some of the lawn areas even tie in. So we're taking all that water that used to just run off the hillside into the wetland and getting it underground and infiltrating it rather than flowing right off. So that's where you're holding back the water. So you're reducing those peak rates, and also the total amount of water running off is reduced.
What are the dimensions of the construction entrance? It looks pretty small. You're going to move a lot of rock out of there.
Yeah, that's the stone apron actually that's showing up on the plan. The construction entrance, I usually recommend 30 feet long at a minimum.
Yeah, okay. So you just it does say proposed stabilized crushed stone construction entrance there. But
it does, yeah.
But it certainly doesn't show a 30-foot long zone of crushed stone.
No, I'm just kind of generally pointing to that area.
Okay. So you are going to put something considerably larger than that striped area that's shown to be, okay.
Yeah, Rob, can you make sure of that?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, Rob and I talked about that on site, that before they start a lot of this work, we should re-establish the stabilized construction entrance, take a look at the erosion controls around the site, since, obviously it's been a while since the original ones were put in. So we definitely wanted to walk the site. I think maybe expectedly more in the spring, right? And then just make sure that all that's in place before they start taking care of the, the hardscaping and landscaping.
Absolutely.
Charlotte, do you know whether John has examined Rustway for the condition of the pavement, and whether or not, I know in the past he's seen projects here where you move a lot of heavy equipment on it and required that the applicant repair the road. I can think of one specific example, but do you know whether he's looked at this?
I do not, but if that's feasible for the, for the project, I'm happy to put that in as a condition to just work with the building inspector and ensure if there are any road repairs that are needed that, they're taken care of while the permit's active, I guess.
Yeah, please.
Would that be, Jeff, does that sound acceptable? Rob?
Yeah.
Okay, I can type that right now. Try my best to do that right now.
We'd be using Johnson Brothers if we go the blasting route, and I think they're very well known in town, very reputable.
Yeah, those are the guys that tore up our street.
Was it them or the company that moved their equipment?
Well, actually, it was the company that moved the equipment in and out. Yeah. But I know from firsthand experience that our private ways, of course, doesn't cost the town anything, but it certainly wreaks havoc on our private ways. And so I think we need a greater protection for those, at least the
I agree. Yeah, I live on a private way also in Cohasset, so I understand.
Yeah.
I actually live right around the corner from the project on Stoneley Lane.
Okay. Yeah, you wouldn't want to see Stoneley Lane with new ruts and potholes and cracks. And
oh, we already have that.
I wish that had been looked after on Howe Road. It perfectly ruined half of it.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, we're just at the 20-minute mark. Don't see.
Do you have your conditions?
Yeah, I was just checking. I don't see any questions or hands raised, so I think I can go to conditions.
Okay.
So I just typed out that one that we just talked about. So this is pretty standard, just making sure that the project's contingent upon him getting all other permits. I'm not sure what other approvals would be needed. And like I said, I'll defer to the building inspector on whether or not a special permit may or may not be needed for the removal of the ledge if a stormwater permit is issued for this work and if a building permit's issued for the sports court. And then any changes from those reviews obviously have to come back to us until, you know, we get approval for that. No changes are allowed to occur without final approval. And then I guess, does the commission approve of the updated planting plan? Do you guys have any other last minute comments, questions? Anything that you guys would want to see on the plans? Or are you guys okay with the updated plan?
Looks pretty dense to me. That's great.
Okay, I'm seeing people nod their heads. Okay. And then the proposed pool shall be drained in accordance with the best management practices from the Conservation Commission for pools and spas. No water shall be drained directly into the buffer zone or wetland along the driveway or directly into the street or catch basins. And then should there be any damage to rest-of-way during construction, the applicant and contractor shall work with the building inspector and agent to inspect and repair any damage prior to project completion. Additional erosion and sedimentation controls may be installed for any road repair work at the direction of the building inspector and agent. I'm mostly probably, I assume, building inspector, but obviously since it's right in front of a wetland, I just want to make sure if they are working in the road, I'd want to see a barrier up there in front of the wetland. And then prior to construction, the following conditions shall be completed. Well, we don't need, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, it doesn't sound like, I mean, Jeff's pretty confident that it doesn't sound like we need anything below the retaining wall. But I don't know if we want to just keep it in here as a template, but just with the note that obviously we don't want encroachment in the 50-foot buffer if we can help it, obviously, because that was the original intent of this project.
How
But I
many
don't
more,
know.
how many more feet of wall are we talking about here? 10?
Oh, you mean from the edge of the wall down to the end of the driveway?
Yeah, not to the end of the driveway, but just to ensure that the wall extends at least
I would
to a bit closer to that drain.
Well, I don't know if we'd want to extend the wall unless you guys want to see that, but we were thinking more of like the stone riprap if we had to
no,
stabilize
idea.
that curve, but we may or may not need it. I can take this or leave it. I mean, that might be something that we may administratively address on the site, but I didn't know if you guys wanted a condition about it.
No, I don't think so.
No? Okay. And then site inspections, pretty standard. I didn't include pre-construction, obviously, since the project's already ongoing, but I did stormwater, pre and post grading, landscaping, and final site inspection. The landscaping is these are very standard conditions that we put in now, just so that everyone's aware. You know, there's a lot of hands that change over when you get to the hardscaping and landscaping side of things. So just want to make sure that we're checking the site out, looking at erosion controls. So, yeah.
Okay, last chance, commissioners, to add any conditions or modify the ones we have on screen. Okay, let's see, where are we here? I've lost my way on my rust. Here we go. All right. Just need to get to the top of my script. Okay, so I move to issue an amended order of conditions for NOI 2114 for 42 Rust Way for construction of a sports court, pool, driveway, and wall changes with the and let's throw the stormwater permit in there as well. The amended stormwater permit 21-15 42 Rust Way. With the conditions shown on screen and entered in into our meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Hey, Kathy,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnoll, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. There's going to be work out. There's no work in the 50, right?
No.
So no variance needed. Okay, it looks like we're wrapping up then. So the public hearing for NOI 2114 and stormwater permit 2115 at 42 Rust Way is now closed.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next is a public hearing for NOI 2431 at Pond Street and 3A, the intersection of Pond Street and 3A, for proposed additions in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, in the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. The Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2431 for Pond Street and 3A. So Charlotte, will you introduce the applicants?
Yes. Hi, Kevin, Matt, Mike. I apologize. Am I missing somebody? Or is it just you guys?
I believe it's just us.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Oh, Charlie, did you want to introduce or should I?
Oh, yeah, just a quick, I'm sorry, I caught this too late. Someone had, Mr. Chair, do you want me to read it? They didn't list their name and address, but it was related to the previous hearing.
Yes.
Okay, it was, can we add
But don't read it until we have their name and.
Okay. Yeah, if they can, if the person who typed that can please add their name and address, but just to clarify, the conditions were the stormwater calculations were still an improvement or a maintenance of the existing conditions. So they were not, with those proposed changes on the plan, they were not, the stormwater runoff rate and volume was not worse than original, you know, with the stormwater management in place.
So would you read the question itself, Charlotte?
Yeah, sorry, can we add a condition to improve runoff post-construction? At least as part of the amended stormwater permit application, that was, the design showed that it was an improvement.
Yeah.
And it wasn't making the conditions worse. Sorry, I saw that too late.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, Mike and Kevin and Matt, can you guys please just list your names and references for, I'm sorry, your affiliations for the record, please?
Mike Turgeon from a wetland scientist from HDR.
I'm Matthew Goldie. I'm the consultant project manager for HDR.
And I'm Kevin Thompson. I'm a wetlands analyst with the Department of Transportation.
Great. Yeah, would you guys like to, you guys can share your screen and go ahead and get started. Oh, sorry, who wants to share their screen?
Yeah, Mike, if you want to share your screen. Guess who already introduced yourselves. So yeah, I'm Kevin Thompson with Massachusetts Department of Transportation, just here to discuss our proposed ADA safety improvements at the intersection of Route 3A and Pond Street. The purpose of the project is to facilitate improvements of street to sidewalk access ramps, just necessary to serve individuals with disabilities and to enhance safety. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike to present the full project for us. Thank you.
Mr. Turgeon, you're muted.
There we go. So we're the project is at the intersection of Pond Street and 3A. We're pretty close to the schools over here and Lily Pond over here. Lily Pond is a public surface water supply. There is an intermittent stream that runs north of the project along 3A through under the intersection and then into Lily Pond. So the wetlands in the vicinity are outstanding resource waters. There are two other smaller intermittent streams that aren't shown, but we'll talk about those when we get to the plans. Here's the our ACEC natural heritage figure showing that we are not in estimated habitats or priority habitats for natural heritage.
and we're not in an area of critical environmental concern, but there is a potential vernal pool nearby. It's PVP 5104. It's more than 100 feet away from the proposed work. And the entire intersection is in overlapping buffer zones from wetlands here and here, and also entirely within a Zone A with FEMA Zone A 100-year floodplain with a base flood elevation of 55.6. And this is the southern corner of the intersection. There's an existing paved sidewalk here with no ADA ramps here or here. This is the eastern corner, eastern quadrant of the intersection, where you have no wetlands in the immediate vicinity, but there's kind of an island here with no ADA ramps associated with it. So it really makes it very difficult for someone trying to get around the corner. And this is the northern quadrant. This area is not paved, but currently, but it has been altered significantly enough to not provide ELSF habitat. And it's on the northern quadrant. So here's our impact plan. So this is the stream flows along 3A. And there's a culvert here. There's a 12-inch RCP here that picks up water from the road, and there's a channel here that connects. There's a confluence here of these two streams, and they're pumped under the road to the southern quadrant over here, and it heads off to the south. There's another stream across Pond Street. There's no work going on in this quadrant, but there is a culvert here with an intermittent stream that drains to wetlands down here. Let's see, the wetland line on the northern quadrant is along here, just outside of the right-of-way. And the wetland line in the southern quadrant comes along here, up. And basically along here, there are some portions in the right-of-way, but once you get too close to the work area, the wetland is either on the line or just outside of the right-of-way. So for the work, we're looking at resurfacing the roadway. There's a saw cut here, saw cuts here, here, and here. So the roadway would be resurfaced and restored to the original elevation, so there's no flood storage loss there. There's a new paved sidewalk going in here, new paved sidewalk going in here on the eastern quadrant, and new paved sidewalk going here in the southern quadrant. There's some temporary impacts in the northern quadrant where they'll be kind of tying into the existing grade, and this area will be seeded. The shaded area will be seeded after construction, and then the rest will be paved with ADA ramps here and here. The eastern quadrant, they'll be able to access the area. the width of the passage will be wider than it currently is. And there'll be an access ramp here. And then in the south, a new ramp here, paved sidewalk, and a new ramp here. Let's see. And then this area here is where we'll be putting in the compensatory flood storage. So your total impacts, the temporary impacts in the northern quadrant are 283 square feet of buffer zone and 283 square feet of bordering land subject to flooding. And then for the compensatory storage area, you have temporary impacts of 564 square feet for both of those for buffer zone and BLSF. And those are temporary impacts. And then for permanent impacts for the roadway resurfacing and the new sidewalk, the retrofitted sidewalks, we have 5,715 impacts to previously disturbed and paved areas. And so I'll go to the next page. And here we're showing the compost tubes are in green. For erosion control, they're shown here as well. We have silt sacks proposed at all catch basins. Here, 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 here. And here's the proposed compensatory storage area. These are 1/10 foot contours. And so for the elevations between 53.6 and 54.6, we have 126 cubic feet lost for the construction of the sidewalks, and 145, that's cubic feet, and 145 cubic feet provided for between those elevations in the compensatory storage area. And then for between 54.6 and 55.6, we have 11 lost and 78 provided. So you end up with an increase in flood storage. And then so the only impacts to floodplain where you are where there is currently habitat, it's for the construction of the compensatory storage area. They're below the 5,000 square foot threshold for impacts to floodplain habitat, and they provide more storage than required in the performance standards. And though we meet all the performance standards, we are also falling under a limited project at 1053 3F, roadway maintenance and improvements for less than half a lane. That's it for the presentation. Do you have any questions?
Charlotte, do you have any comments?
Yeah, so I guess you guys may know by now that since this is falls under a limited project under the Wetlands Protection Act, but also in general, the MassDOT projects are exempt from our local bylaws. So we're just dealing with Wetlands Protection Act for bordering land subject to flooding, wetland buffer zones, and limited project standards. And then I don't, I did previously clarify with Matt, Mike, and Kevin that they're not upgrading any of the existing stormwater management systems here, the catch basins and everything, because it was determined that the existing systems can handle the increase in impervious, even though there is a slight increase in the 210 and 100-year storm event runoff rates and stuff, but the existing systems can handle it. I did propose a draft set of conditions that are very similar to the conditions you've already seen for the other two MassDOT projects. And sorry, I know I sent that to you guys last minute. I don't know if you guys had time to look through them, but a lot of them are pretty straightforward. So at any point in time tonight, I can review those. But those are really my comments that I had already clarified with, with their team. So.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments or questions?
I have a very silly question. And that's kind of, why are they doing this? Because there are no sidewalks there, aside from the corners themselves.
I'll take that one. So, yes, there's no sidewalks that extend beyond the intersection. We do note that the school is just to the north of this. And we're not technically clear on the amount of volume that moves in this direction from the school, but the fact that there are pedestrian facilities there and they are within MassDOT right of way. MassDOT is, and there's crosswalks in the roadway. MassDOT is federally required to bring those sidewalks and curb ramps up to compliance standards so that, they're meeting ADA requirements. So the nature that they already exist means they need to be maintained correctly and accessible. And certainly with the way they are now, where there's no curb ramps at all, there's just a 6-inch curb in the way. Something needs to be done.
That was what I expected, but it just seemed like were you replacing this intersection anyway?
No, so this is part of MassDOT's statewide ADA transition plan. They have a very large drawn out plan that takes course over about 16 years that they'll be doing all the curb ramps that they own and maintain within their right of way. And this just happens to be one of those locations.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Maybe it's a signal to town that we need to put a sidewalk between the high school and our spanking new ADA compliant intersection.
Yeah, and Steve, just to add a little bit of reference here, there are 2 other MassDOT projects that the commission had recently reviewed and approved. I can't remember if you were here at the time we looked at those, but they're adding sidewalks and bike paths and improving, everything for safety and access and along 3A, pretty much from like just past Sawyer Street all the way into Situate. So yeah, that it falls within this this limit of work as well. So this is like a separate project, but in theory, like the whole area along 3A in this area in town is getting upgraded.
I see. Okay.
Further comments from the commission? Charlotte, you want to put your conditions up?
Yes. Before I do that though, Matt, Mike, and Kevin, have you guys, I apologize for sending them to you guys late, but if you guys, did they seem reasonable to you? They're pretty much, like I said, they're copied from the other projects. I just tailored them since this project is much smaller than the other 2 we looked at. A lot of it seems to be just, common sense about, leaking and vehicle storage and not putting materials near wetlands or things like that. Did a lot of that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, I was able to take a look at it and it makes sense to us. Our whole unit hasn't a chance to review it yet, so they may feel differently, but
okay.
I think we had some concerns about the conditions where you ask us to restrict work to low flow periods, and we're not really working in.
You're not really doing that, yeah.
That's doing that. So if we could amend, things that are more applicable, maybe a stream crossing or work actually in the wetland, that would.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think it was number 39.
39. Okay, so I can take that.
It was referenced in a couple places, but I think generally, if you can.
So, yeah, just to quickly reference, the commissioners, this may look familiar to you. This is our template. We had previously revised it to remove.
We can't see it, Charlotte.
Do I need to stop sharing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I sharing?
Yours up.
Oh, I'm not sharing. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, the buttons on Zoom have changed and I think it tried to ask me to share multiple.
Just stopped.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so as commissioners, you guys know this is our template. We had previously modified it with the first MassDOT project we looked at to remove references to the bylaw. So this is pretty much copied from just that. So condition 39, this is a standard condition in our template. Would you guys, since it's not pertinent to this project, they're not working in any wetland resource areas, do you guys think it's okay to take this out?
Yeah, let's remove that.
Okay, I'll change the numbering then, so you can ignore the numbering for now. So these are all our template question language. We don't read these for orders of conditions because we usually have this inclusive with our proposed conditions. So I'm going to start at 47 onward. You guys have seen these before, that the permit's contingent upon all other state, federal, local permits, and any changes have to come back to us before those changes are done. A lot of the conditions that we had discussed with the other projects were about, vehicle washing and just not refueling in any areas adjacent to flagged wetlands along 3A, and no soil stockpiling near those sensitive areas as well. And then prior to site work, including land clearing and demolition, which again, not really applicable here, but I can just say prior to site work, the following shall be completed. These highlighted conditions, I really don't think are needed. I just had a question for the MassDOT side. I don't think you have to work in with any easements since you're working within the MassDOT right away. So I'm pretty sure I can take this one out. See, not, okay. And then I don't think we really need a construction schedule for this project. It's a very small limit of work. So if the commission agrees, I can take this out. But like I said, this was put in place for the larger projects on 3A. So pretty much just before construction, just certifying all equipment was inspected, maintained, no fluid leaks, and then the erosion barriers inspected by me prior to work. That's really standard for all of our projects. Construction equipment regularly inspected to ensure no fluid leaks. I mean, a lot of this is a little bit repetitive, and then just using any temporary erosion control practices as needed. This was this was within the other MassDOT projects. I don't know if you guys agree with that or if that's within the project budget for this particular work. I know you guys weren't doing any improvements to the stormwater, but I don't know if it's worth, excuse me, keeping a note on if any catch basin covers get damaged. Would we want to see those replaced?
We do include quantities where we're resurfacing certain areas, particularly crosswalks here. We include, items to R&R, the structure, just in case, it does need to be adjusted even slightly. And as part of that, when they adjust them even slightly, we usually have a small quantity of replacement covers in case, like you're saying, they are damaged. So I think that would be fine to leave in because we do consider that as part of our project.
Okay, great. And then again, a lot of this is very repetitive, but common sense about not storing anything really close to a wetland. I don't know necessarily if we need a construction O&M here, just because I think it's pretty basic unless you guys want one, but they do have a long-term prevention and pollution plan that was included in the NOI and the stormwater report and checklist. So I don't know if the commission feels strongly about wanting to see an O&M plan and having that being followed as part of the order for this particular project.
Do you think you need one? I mean, you're going to be the one that's doing the inspections and stuff. So
I mean, in a way, this set of conditions kind of is one. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I can take it out. They did provide. I don't think you guys had an O&M plan for construction. You did have a long-term prevention and pollution plan in your stormwater stuff. So that's kind of why I highlighted it. And then same thing with open trenches. We just don't, just making sure that open trenches are contained with BMPs at the end of the day. Like I said, don't really know how much you guys have to be doing that. And then I'll defer to the commission on this one. I don't think for this project they're going to be using these types of chemicals, but we had put this in for the other two MassDOT projects. So do you guys want this to stay or not stay?
No, let's keep that.
Okay. I don't think we need this one unless you guys feel strongly that they have to just, I mean, like I said, it's an intersection. It's not a whole section on 3A where they're going to be working in wetlands. So I'm okay taking it out if the commission's okay with that.
Sure.
Okay. And then following laws in terms of disposal, removal of unsuitable soils, pretty common sense here. And then I don't think we really have to dewater here. Do you guys anticipate any dewatering in this area? I really don't think so. So I'm okay with taking this out if the commission's okay with that.
Yep.
Yeah, like I wanted to keep everything first, then take it out versus not having them.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, same thing with refueling, not being near a wetland outside the buffer zone to the maximum extent. We had talked with the other MassDOT projects that may or may not be feasible. So just as far away as possible. And then spill containment, long-term prevention pollution plan. Oh, sorry. I think, we already have that. So I don't think we need that. They already gave it to us. And then the site inspections for just pre-construction, pre-paving and final. And then any additional inspections may be needed throughout the project if things come up. So like I said, all these conditions were taken from the other two MassDOT projects we'd already previously reviewed and approved. So pretty much just thinned out the set of conditions that we already had. Doesn't sound like I had any, it doesn't sound like you guys had any issues with those either. No,
No,
okay,
That's fine, Charlotte.
all right.
All right, so I move that we issue an order of conditions for NOI 2431 at Pond Street and 3A for these, the work of constructing ADA compliant structures. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Okay, Kathy,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano. Valerio still with us?
Valerio, you're muted. Valerio, if you can hear us, you're muted. You want to have him abstain, Mr. Chair?
Yeah. Tom Bell, aye. So this motion passes 3-0-1. And do we need to issue a variance? I guess not, right? I mean,
Yeah, no bylaw stuff.
yeah, so we're good.
All
So
right.
the public hearing for NOI 2431, intersection of Pond Street and 3A is now closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Night.
Okay. So here we are at, so we're going to, next, we're going to resume the public meeting for NOI 24-29 and stormwater permit 2427 at 82 Border Street. Charlotte?
Yes, one sec.
Two applicants.
We have a big team here, so.
Yeah.
Just waiting on Deb, Adam. There she is.
Thank you.
I also see Eamon O'Mara as well, but he hasn't joined yet. Oh, there he is. He's also coming. Sorry, now that's everyone. All right. Can you guys all introduce your names and affiliations, or can someone do that?
I'll be happy to do that. Good evening,
Okay.
everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local land use and environmental lawyer, and I represent the applicant Co-Lobster LLC. Tom Sullivan is the manager of the LLC. Eamon O'Mara is our project manager. Deb Keller, our registered professional engineer. Carol Lamb is our landscape architect. And Nino DeNuno from DeNuno Construction is our general contractor. We last met with the Conservation Commission on October 17th and had several additional issues to be addressed. And those were addressed in our filing on October 31, 2024. I'm just going to briefly summarize the most, I guess, relevant to the Conservation Commission were the revisions to our construction methodology and site protection diagram, in which we eliminated the use of floats and booms on the east side of the project near the Gulf River outlet to address the flow conditions on that side. And we're proposing to use construction netting as an alternative means to prevent debris from getting into the water. We updated all of the various site and architectural plans so that each board has updated and consistent sets. We've completed peer review with Weston and Sampson in connection with the planning board. We provided you with a copy of our response, but they reported to the planning board last evening that we've addressed all of their concerns. And in fact, the planning board closed the public hearing on our site plan review last evening, and they will be conditioning the project. For your information, we will be in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals next week on November 12th, and we're in the process of reviewing a draft decision. We hope to close that public hearing also. Ms. Pechtel was nice enough to share draft conditions for this project with the team, and we provided some comments. The team's available to answer any technical questions you may have, and we're also prepared to address conditions this evening. Obviously, our goal is to have the commission close the public hearing and condition the project. So with that brief introduction, I'm happy to turn it over to the commission for any additional questions.
Thanks. Charlotte, do you have any further comments from the response from the applicant?
So I did have some initial like tweaks to the long-term operation and maintenance plan. I had relayed those comments to the planning board as well, and I think that has all been resolved. The O&M plan was updated to include the information that I was looking for. We didn't receive any further comments. There were a few comments from the harbor master, which I did put into conditions, and so I can pull those up whenever. And you know, some of them are definitely just based off of my recent conversations with the harbor master, which I think we can discuss with the commission tonight, was mostly related to just how we're going to secure the site during construction and what's going to happen during the height of winter storm season. How are we going to, you know, protect that? So I did look at other conditions that we issued for other projects in the area at Government Island, put in some of those conditions to try and address those concerns, but obviously fully dependent on obviously your input tonight. But in terms of what we have from the peer reviewer, I didn't see any additional pending open comments from Weston and Sampson in regards to compliance with the stormwater standards. They'd had a few follow-up responses here and there, but just following the letters, it looks like a lot of their comments have all been addressed, at least on the stormwater side. So yeah, that was mostly what I had. I didn't really see any other pending things on my end that would still need to be addressed that may or may not could just be done through conditions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any further questions or comments? None? Okay. Charlotte, you want to put the conditions up on screen? Yep, you're muted.
Sorry, this is these are the conditions, just a little, they are tracked just to show Adam's additional input. So these look familiar, pretty standard. At this point, I'm just going to add them to the template so that I don't have to keep reading them every time. But just that the order is contingent upon obtaining all other permits. No construction work shall occur until those permits have all been obtained, including but not limited to Concom, planning, zoning, sewer, board of health, water, and building. All changes required from any other state and local reviews and permitting authorities shall be submitted to the Concom in writing as an amended or new notice of intent stormwater permit. No revised site work or changes are allowed to begin until conservation reviews the plan changes. Just so that the commission is aware, obviously after an order of conditions is potentially issued, they would need to obviously go through any required state permits, including Chapter 91 amendments. So we usually get a copy of those licenses as we would for other projects on the coast. And then the redevelopment and renovation project has been presented to the commission, ensuring that no work shall be performed within the intertidal zone or land underwater. Any modifications found during construction that require additional work, especially noting the replacement of structural footings and piers, shall require a new notice of intent or amendment of this order of conditions and stormwater permit. We put in a condition like this for the project at 46 Border Street, because the commission was also informed for that project they were not working in those sensitive areas and replacing any footings. And then prior to construction, the following conditions shall be completed. All asbestos testing in the property and within the buildings, including building floors, shall be performed in compliance with state law and confirmed there shall be no risk of the release of asbestos containing material into the coastal resource areas during construction and demolition. A copy of the report shall be submitted to the conservation agent. As of a few hours ago, I did get a few additional comments from one of our commissioners who couldn't make it tonight. It was about a very specific form, and I can talk about that in a little bit, so I can add that to the condition as needed. Proposed construction methodology statement and site protection plan shall be reviewed by the agent, harbor master, and building inspector prior to any site work as part of the required pre-construction visit. All modifications to the plans and statement shall be discussed and reviewed and approved by the agent. The final construction and methodology and site protection diagram shall be submitted in writing for the permit records and shall be followed as part of the order. This is pretty much what we did with 46 Border Street. I just pretty much drafted it as a condition because obviously we found out during construction that things needed to be modified, so we may need to do the same for this site. In viewing the site from the water and the ground, with the harbor master, she does feel like there can be a silt containment boom that goes on both sides of the site, just not obviously in the middle of where all the rapids are. So we can definitely work with her and the building inspector to install those in the right location that we all agree on. Given the harbor master's concerns with work and my concerns as well during, the height of winter season, we had drafted this proposed emergency storm contingency plan to secure, clean up, and restore the site before and after storm events shall be submitted to the agent, building inspector, harbor master, and any other appropriate local authorities. This plan shall be reviewed and approved by the agent, building inspector, and harbor master at the least, and shall include at minimum 3 permanent locations for life preservation devices, aka rings, to always remain on site. That was specifically from the harbor master. I understand that may not be within our purview, but she was very adamant about putting that in. So if there's no objections from the applicant and their team, I don't see why this can't just go in because it's going to be a part of the plan anyway. And then in the event there's a release of an oil or hazardous spill discovered, which must be reported to the Mass DEP under the Massachusetts Contingency Plan 310 CMR 40, et cetera. The applicant shall also provide written notice to the conservation agent. So just making sure that we're included in that plan if there is any hazardous or oil spill in the event. And then if an EPA general construction permit and a stormwater prevention pollution plan is required, the permitting and stormwater prevention pollution plan shall be submitted to the commission. We've done that for other projects around the harbor. And then this is addressing a concern from an abutter, just that should there be work necessary in any portion of the abutting property at 70 Border Street, this shall be discussed with the property owner, and any license or access agreement shall be approved by both parties, just, since they're working close to the limit of both of those properties. During construction, the following conditions shall be implemented. The Conservation Commission shall reserve the right to hire a third-party contractor consultant at the applicant's expense to review construction methodology and the site protection plan and provide any professional input or modifications, especially should failure of the proposed methodologies emerge during construction that result in damage to the resource areas. We put this condition in just considering the fact that this is a very sensitive area that is much more exposed to the northeast winds and the rapids from the Gulf during those tidal exchange events. And then construction activity, removal of the marine railway within the intertidal zone shall be limited to low tide conditions. That was a condition recommendation from Division of Marine Fisheries. Actually, the next couple are from DMF. The storage of construction material and equipment in the intertidal zone is not allowed as part of this order. And then again, this might be a little repetitive, so I could take it out, but per the instruction of the harbor master, the site shall contain at least 3 preservation devices, rings for immediate use in the rare instance of safety risk events. All work shall be conducted from the upland portions of the site. No work shall be allowed within land underwater except as provided in the construction methodology statement and site protection diagram for removal of the railway and for installation, modification, and removal of the erosion sedimentation controls. Proposed silt containment booms shall not be installed in a manner that avoids fish passage restrictions and/or to the Gulf River. Site dewatering is not allowed as part of this order without approval from local, state, and federal permitting authorities. And then prior to the retaining wall construction, the plans and revised site plan as applicable shall be submitted to the agent to determine if amended permitting is required. Any fill brought onto the site shall be clean, and if any soil testing is required to comply with state law, a copy shall be provided to the agent. After storm events, the applicant and contractor shall check the site erosion control barriers and immediately restore any eroded areas. That's also kind of a part of our template that if there's any damage to the resource area, it has to be immediately repaired. This is kind of just reiterating that a little bit more. The applicant shall keep a clean construction site, removing dirt, dust, or debris entirely from the site. If a dumpster is kept on site, which I'm sure it will, it shall be covered after each workday. All proposed plantings shall be native, come from Concom's approved planting lists, including any species substitutions, deciduous tree plantings, and shall be at least 2.5 to 3.5 inches in caliper, and coniferous shall be at least 6 to 8 feet in height. I think the proposed landscaping plan has deciduous mostly, but if they were to switch, just wanted to put that language in there. And then site inspections, with everyone's permission, I will not read these word for word, but just for pre-construction, pretty standard, before the railway is removed, before the retaining wall is installed, before the stormwater controls are put in, before final grading, and then landscaping, final inspection, and any additional inspections as needed. Sorry, that was a lot.
Thank you. You were going to comment about
Yes.
an issue that I believe Chris McIntyre brought up.
Yes, I'm sorry I got his comments late, but the additional form that he was referencing, and I don't know if the applicant's team can weigh in on this. Sorry, 1 second. It was the AQ06 construction demolition notification form from Mass DEP, which is required for demo construction projects and necessitates an asbestos survey. It should be noted that the commission is concerned about the prior use of the site for boat building, which may have included asbestos, and ask that testing be conducted on suspect asbestos containing debris should any be uncovered.
So Chair Bell, it's Adam Brodsky. I think we have that covered in condition 4A. We have to comply with state law. I can't tell you whether that's the appropriate form for this application. So my suggestion is, I think we've got to, as I explained, Massachusetts is a very rigorous program to regulate asbestos containing materials. I think I kept on referring to asbestos containing building materials last time we spoke, but it's asbestos containing materials, so it's a broader category. We have to comply with the law. And so I respectfully suggest I don't think we need to be more specific. And then that avoids, I think, having a discussion regarding the limits of the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction with respect to asbestos.
So if I understand you right, you're saying that if there is a form that is required, you're going to.
Yes, we're required by law to provide it.
Right.
With significant penalties, including criminal penalties for violation of the asbestos regulations.
Okay. Yeah. So I agree that we don't need, we've already larded this up quite a bit. So
yeah, I think it was just it was Commissioner McIntyre. Just again, should be noted the commission's concerned about the prior use of the site for boat building, which may have included asbestos. So that's usually, I think that the reason why we're requesting this 4A condition is given those concerns. But yeah, I admit that obviously the asbestos stuff is not directly within our jurisdiction, but given the concerns with any potential exposure to the resource area, I think asking for a copy of the report seems fair, and it seems like Adam and his team have agreed to that as well.
Yes, and to also provide you of any notification with respect to a release of OHM under Chapter 21A. Again,
Yes.
we're grateful for the commission working with us cooperatively. We'll continue to keep you informed.
Yeah, I think this is sufficient then.
Did the commissioners have any other comments or concerns about this? We pretty much asked for, with the exception of the life preserving stuff, we did ask for this for the Government Island Wharf project, should that should that move forward. So, it's in the same.
That's agreeable. We're agreeable to that. I might suggest to delete the second reference to the preservation devices to eliminate the redundancy, but.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
We have every interest to make sure that this site is secure and safe during any storm event.
Yeah, that was definitely a shared concern from myself and the harbor master, just in the rare instance that those events do occur, what the site's going to look like before and afterwards and how you're going to contain it. So I think the storm contingency plan, at least unless the commission disagrees, it seems like a good negotiated condition where we're not restricting the work, but we're still asking for a plan of how the site's going to be kept safe and how the resources will be safe.
Yeah. So back to the commission. Any last comments or questions?
No question.
Has Valerio rejoined us?
Did he leave the call?
I have. No, I have. I'm sorry. I
Oh,
have.
good.
I was like,
No,
we
good.
cannot have a
I've
we
been
cannot have a
listening.
meeting right now.
I
if
was
you're
having
not-
an issue. Nope, I have. Sorry
Perfect,
about
thank you.
Great, okay. So if we have, nobody has any further comments, then I will move that we issue an order of conditions for, sorry, I have to look at the too much stuff on my screens here. I move that we issue an order of conditions for NOI 2429 and stormwater permit 2427 for 82 Border Street, with the conditions that have been discussed tonight are on the screen and entered into the meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. This vote passes 4-0-0. Public hearing for NOI
Oh, sorry, Mr.
2431.
Chair, we need a variance for the work in the 50
Oh,
and for
yeah,
the
yeah, sorry.
greater than 1,000 square foot alteration of the resource area, which would be, in this case, would be riverfront and land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Yes. So I move to issue a variance for work within the riverfront, within the land subject to coastal zone flowage and to the buffers to the wetland resource. Did I miss one?
Yeah, so it'd be the 50-foot buffer to the intertidal zone, the salt marshes, and
okay.
yeah, and then a greater than 1,000 square foot alteration of a resource area, which would be land subject to coastal storm flowage and riverfront area.
Okay, so moved. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Hey, Kathy?
Kathy Berrigan. Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. Motion passes 4-0-0. So the public hearing for NOI 24-29 stormwater permit 24-27 82 Border Street is closed.
Thank you very much. Good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, you're all welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
So next up is a show cause hearing for 46 Little Harbor Road.
1 second. Actually, that has, as of this afternoon, I spoke to the applicant. They did provide some planting suggestions, but I did talk with them that, you know, they might want to just take a look because some of the species that they chose may not do well in those exposed coastal areas. So they just needed a little bit more time. They've asked for continuance to November 21st. I'm fine with that because they're actively working on it. It would be different if we obviously didn't hear from them with an update. So, you know, they continued to 11/21 and they just said, sorry, we just need more time to work on it. So.
Okay, that means more free time for us.
Yes.
You just disposed of that one. Okay, so now we move on to the fun part of the evening, certificates of compliance. I'm just going to turn this over to you, Charlotte.
Yep. All right. So I'm just going to go down the list and we do have some people in the audience for this as well. So I'm going to start with 450 King Street. Sorry, I'm just promoting Colin, who's representing the Colin McSweeney. And Colin, I'm sorry, can you please just state your name and affiliation for the record?
Yeah, so my name is Colin McSweeney. I was hired by the homeowners at 450 King Street to design a new upgraded septic system.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this was, you know, as Colin just mentioned, it was a septic upgrade system. Board of Health has reviewed this and they are in the process of issuing a certificate of compliance. There were just very, very minor, I know you guys didn't want me to specify if it's major or minor, but this was the approved plan. So for the most part, the system was installed per plan. The leaching field and the treatment tank are just a tad closer to the foundation, but they're still within the 10-foot setback, which is required for Title V. So in terms of Board of Health, they had no concerns about that. I can pull up the as-built, but the distances I think were maybe a little bit a foot less, like 12 and 11 feet, but it still maintains that 10-foot minimum. On the plan here, I just wanted to note that these three tree shrub outlines that you see, it wasn't really anything on the site. There was a dead tree. It was a tree that had been removed a very long time ago. There was a stump there that was removed, and it was mostly overgrowth in this area that wasn't just pure lawn. So when the leaching system was installed, it was, obviously scrubbed out just a tad, but most of it is, as you can see, just outside the 100-foot buffer. Just wanted to kind of note that for the initial and final site conditions. And other than that, there were no other deviations that I noted on the site. And as I mentioned, Board of Health's in the process of issuing their certificate of compliance. Since there were no proposed plantings with this project, the only ongoing condition I would, I'm sorry, there was a special condition about any trees to be removed in the buffer zone. That's why I wanted to clarify that they didn't technically remove any trees in the buffer zone. So that condition, special 55, was complied with because nothing was removed for the project. And I'm sorry, the only ongoing condition I would suggest is our standard number 40 with no herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers in the buffer zones. Anything outside the buffer zones, it should be limited to low nitrogen time release fertilizers. I know we can't enforce that as much, but in the buffer zone, at least we can say don't use it. So Colin, I'm not sure if you had anything else to add, but that was really all I had for this one.
Oh, yeah, I think you covered everything. So if you have any questions, obviously I'm here for that as well.
Okay.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Doesn't sound like it. Charlotte, any further comments?
No, not really.
Okay. I can't seem to get to my agenda because it's being covered by the open screen.
Oh, here I can.
Yeah. Thanks. Let me scoot that over to where it belongs so that doesn't happen again. Okay, so I move to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2421 for 450 King Street
With condition 40.
with condition 40, of course. Looking for a second.
Berrigan second.
Thank you. Kathy Berrigan,
Hey, Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magno, aye.
Larry Romano,
Larry Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, onward.
Onward. All right. The next one is NOI 2306 for 85 Jerusalem Road. And I do have the applicant, Yvonne, with us. So let me just promote her real quick. Yeah. Here she is. Hi, Yvonne. You muted. Okay, I can get started. So this one, hi Yvonne. Sorry, I can lead the presentation. Just want to make sure you could hear us. So this one was a project to amplify. Hold on, let me just pull up the plan so you can probably I can explain it a little bit easier. So this was the approved plan. This was mostly a landscaping and a little bit of hardscaping project to replace the footings on the existing deck and put in a boulder wall at the bottom of the deck along with a bunch of landscape plantings. And the as-built, I think, is really helpful to show, which I can show in a moment. Just wanted to give you guys a quick look at the approved plan. Most of the work was in the 50-foot buffer, given the site's existing conditions close to the marsh. Let me just pull up the as-built. There we go. So Yvonne was kind enough to note some of the changes since the approved plan. So starting with the first one, the proposed patio in the 100-foot buffer, they ended up not constructing that one and they don't want to install it anymore. But Yvonne is aware that obviously if she would ever change her mind in the future, she just have to come back to us. During construction, we did note that there was just a gap in the boulder wall where a few additional boulders were added to further stabilize the slope. That was a previous administrative change that I'd looked at with our chair, and that was administratively approved. There was a Norway maple that was discovered that it was a hazard to the power line. So this was another administrative change. And then we had requested a tree replacement in the 100-foot buffer. So she installed a new Eastern red cedar, and I can pull up pictures of that, but put it in a pretty similar place as you guys can see on the as-built. And then there was an additional footing to the lower deck that just had to get added during construction that didn't really change the limit of work. It was just an additional footing underneath the existing deck in disturbed space. And then the plantings were just a different selection than what was on the original plan. So I don't know if you guys saw my report. It was pretty much just a different selection of perennials and shrubs. There were no trees that were planted as part of this project because no trees were removed other than this Norway maple, which was replaced with an Eastern red cedar. But yeah, it was just a different variety of drop seed and sedge species, and different shrub species. So I don't know if the commission has any concerns about that, but other than that, that's pretty much, that's really what was noted on site. I confirmed the erosion control barriers can come out, the site's stable. And for ongoing conditions, I would recommend that, we stick with number 40 and number 41 with no chemicals, obviously in the buffer zone, and the plantings obviously need to survive 3 full growing seasons or be replaced. And I'll turn it over to you guys if you have any additional comments.
Commissioners?
None.
Okay, with that, I move that to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2306 85 Jerusalem Road with the condition 40, and was there another one, Charlotte?
40 and 41.
40 and 41, thank you. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Yvonne. I'll get that to you probably early next week.
Thanks.
All right. Next one. So just a quick update, the COC request for NOI 2103, 2104 and stormwater permit 2102, 2103, as well as NOI 2407. Lots of numbers. That one has been continued to 11/21. We're just waiting on an updated as-built with some additional information. So I'll present that next time. So
good.
One more. Yeah, that was quick. All right, the next one, 2235 for 99 Border Street. I think I see Jeff in there, so I can promote him. And I don't see the applicant, so I think it's just Jeff. All right, so for 99 Border, this was a dock, pier, and gangway project. I can pull up the as-built. Actually, I'm going to pull up the approved plan first, just so that you guys can see A and B. So this was a property that already had an existing pier that needed to be brought into compliance with an active Chapter 91 license. And then they ended up getting a second license for the proposed landing, gangway, and float. So the float and the gangway are the same size that were proposed in the approved plan. So I'm just going to pull up the as-built. There we go. Too many documents open. So as you guys can see on the as-built, this existing pier was reconstructed per the Chapter 91 license 6104. I asked Jeff for that just to compare. Looks like it does appear to be from the original design. The landing, the 4x4 landing, and then the gangway and the float were just installed at a slightly different angle. It does tuck the float and the gangway into a little bit further in away from the channel. So I just asked Jeff to clarify that, and he did obviously confirm that the angle of the gangway is different and it puts the float further away from the channel, but it is 1.5 feet closer to the property line. My only concern was just, it obviously has to go through DEP for final review as well. Jeff doesn't anticipate any concerns that this would, be raised with DEP. But it does, since it was installed at a different angle, I did talk to the harbor master and she was okay with this installation as well and seemed to be satisfied with it since it was tucked in a little bit further away from the channel. For ongoing conditions, and these were special conditions for the project, I would still put in condition 55 and 56. 55 is, as outlined by the harbor master, any boat docked to the float over 15 feet in length and over 6 feet in beam could pose a safety concern, and these concerns shall be addressed with the harbor master. The mooring anchors shall be used to stabilize the float with the existing chains attached to the ledge outcrop. And then condition 56 was open communication regarding channel navigation and safety concerns shall be maintained and communicated through the harbor master to the applicant. So I'd recommend that condition 55 and 56 be issued with the COC. And then 40 and 41 are standard ones. Were not really applicable for this project. And there already are existing COCs on the property to maintain this planting area that you guys see above here. So I don't think it's necessary to issue condition 40 and 41 with this particular NOI.
Okay.
And sorry, Jeff, I didn't know if you had anything else to add, but that's all I had.
No, that was a good summary. I would just that would be redundant if I had anything, so.
Commissioners, any comments? Questions? Okay, so I move to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2235 99 Border Street with 50 and 56, or is it 51 and 56?
55 and 56.
55 and 56. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Thank you, Kathy.
Roll.
We can count on you every time. Now it's time to vote.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0.
All right.
3 more to go.
Yes, thank you. And Jeff, were you on for this one too?
Yeah, septic as-built.
7 Marion Way. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so this was another septic project. I think it's pretty standard for people to forget about closing the order conditions at this point because there was a certificate of compliance issued by the Board of Health in 2021. Hold on, it might take me a little minute to pull up the plans, but for the most part, I didn't notice any deviations. It was installed in the 100 and the 50 as per the plans. And I did look at Board of Health COC that was issued 3 years ago. So I had originally, I think for context, written the applicants a letter that their permit had expired. And so they responded with actually closing the permit out, which is obviously an acceptable option. So this is the as-built from the septic plan from 2021. It's pretty much done in the same year the permit was issued. So just for reference, Marion Way is off of CJC. The tank and the pump chambers and stuff were all installed in the 50-foot buffer behind the home. The only deviation that I will note is that this was further, it's closer to the wetland than the original plan. I think the original plan had it a little bit closer to the home, so closer to that 10-foot setback, but it is within existing lawn space. So it didn't seem to disturb the existing tree line. I did look at it as best I could on near map, but it didn't look like any vegetation was removed to push it a little bit further or closer to the wetland. And then the leaching field was it's the same size. It's 15 by 40. It's just a slightly different layout than what was originally proposed, but it's the same set of chambers and everything. And it was installed in a similar location per plan, a little bit in the 50, but mostly in the 100. So again, with this septic project, I would just recommend condition number 40 as an ongoing condition. As far as I'm aware, there weren't any plantings for this project. I couldn't find the inspection port, Jeff, but it has been 3 years. So I'm sure the area has just been, it's full of leaves and poison ivy. So I'm sure it's there and Board of Health saw it, but I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, we do call them to be slightly below grade. The detail shows 3 inches below grade, and then we have ties to it. So we could pull ties to find it if we had to.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say the elevations and stuff were pretty much all the same, but I couldn't locate it in the field, but that's, like I said, the area's a little bit overgrown at this point, so I'm sure it's there. Commissioners, any comments?
Okay, I move to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 2119 7 Marion Way with the condition 40. Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0.
Okay.
Two more to go.
Thanks again, Jeff.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so these two that you see highlighted on the agenda, these are related to our favorite housing sales. So these are a little odd, but I can be as quick as possible. I don't know if you guys had a chance to review the letters that were submitted by Sherman Law in Hingham. Basically, the registry is being complicated. I'm just going to be real simple. The registry is being complicated and they want new certificates of compliance. Both certificates of compliance were already issued for these permits for these addresses. With the first one with 34 Hemlock Way, basically the land court is complicated to deal with and they want a separate partial COC specifically for 34 Hemway described as lot 12 on the land court plan. They would not accept the full certificate of compliance for the whole entire work because this was a development. So they wanted a partial COC specifically for that lot confirming that the work was done. There's really nothing else to add other than the registry just wanted it. And
So
it was
was it done? Was it done?
Yeah, oh, it's done. I mean, I had actually, if you guys see in OneDrive, we had to deal with this land development, this huge development last year. I had done a summary report of all the orders and conditions that I could find. I found COCs that were pretty much issued here and there. They were obviously all issued inconsistently. There's some complete COCs, some partial COCs specifically for certain lots. There's just no partial COC for this particular lot. So that's why they're looking for a partial COC just for lot 12 so that land court can successfully record it and enter all of their required data points.
Let's give it to them.
Yeah.
Do we call
I just made sure the lawyers explained it in a letter because I was like, I'm sorry, you want what now?
Do we call it a partial COC?
It is a partial. You can issue partial COCs.
Partial.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I move to issue a partial COC for NOI 04-29 for 34 Hemlock Way.
And I'm sorry, I may have been slurring my words. It's partial, like a half, partial COC.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought, but then we were talking about parcels, okay.
Yep, sorry.
Let me start again.
Sorry.
I move to issue a partial COC for 34 Hemlock Way for NOI 04-29.
Berrigan, second.
Thank you. Now you can vote.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano,
Valerio Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 4-0-0. So we have another one, huh?
Yep, so this is a
the
different
partial?
request, but basically, there was a complete COC that was issued for lot 5, which is now 24 Woodway. This again is part of the large, I can't remember, I think these are two separate development projects, and this is another one that I had to go into the archives and look at 15 different boxes. But basically the registered land system does not accept an attested copy because I did not have the original complete COC in the file. There were also 2 errors with the DEP file number and the recording information that were issued as part of the complete COC that were incorrect. And so it needs to be corrected. So technically this is just us, instead of issuing a partial in this case, this is just us reissuing a 30-year-old COC with the correct file information for the land court because they want it. So
Okay, we'll give it to them. So I move to issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 9519 24 Woodway, lot 5. Okay. So we're gonna vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Berrigan, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Valerio Romano, who is
Valerio Romano, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That passes 4-0-0.
All right. Housing sales stuff done.
Agent updates.
I'm sure this is also going to come around in another 5 years where someone needs another COC for a specific lot for those developments, but I'm just going to keep adding it to my little list in our files. So, all right, construction updates. So 20 Parker Ave, this was an addition project. They have gone underway. They have done the demo on the site. They have put in their erosion controls. They took out the vegetation and the trees in the 100-foot buffer that were approved to come out. During construction, they actually, during the clearing and stuff, they actually discovered that there's an existing patio that was just buried under a lot of ivy. So that will be noted on the as-built, but it was not added as part of the project. And then we did find a very sickly native tree. I think it was like a very struggling cedar that was pretty much 90+% dead and half fallen over. So I did allow them to take that out if they are willing to replace it. So they are going to replace that and put another tree in the 100. And it was very small. It was only like probably less than 6 inches in caliper, and it was like consumed by vines and leaning everywhere. But it was in the middle of all the Japanese knotweed that we didn't notice. And then 37 Parker Ave. I'm actually not sure why I put this one up here, but basically, you know, they got their extension. They're going to continue to do the work. They did reseed a second time, and we're just waiting on that to come through. So I did just make a note to myself to touch base with them in a few weeks to just check and see how the seed is taking this time, because it failed the first couple times. One Reservoir Road. This is pretty much a house raise and rebuild project. It was a stormwater permit. They have put in most of the stormwater infiltration systems. I went out there every time to inspect them. So the contractor who's on the site was really good at calling me for that. And the engineer obviously has inspected them too, since I'm not an engineer. 24 Little Harbor Road. This was one of our coastal projects that included landscaping, but also one of the first times we allowed the use of herbicides to restore the coastal bank. They did just apply the herbicides as of 2 weeks ago. So we're just I was out to the site when they were doing it. And we're just gonna keep watch of it. And they have marked all of the trees that are mostly all Norway maples to come out as part of the project. It is like 35 trees, but they are obviously proposing to replace all of those as they did in our approved plan. They haven't cut down the trees yet, but I told them, please call me when you do, because it's in front of where everybody is on Little Harbor. And I did notice that there was a little bit of vegetation removal on top of a ledge outcrop that's right at the entrance to their driveway, but apparently that's as part of an amended plan that they submitted to me administratively to do additional landscaping work there. I'm just going to obviously note that they shouldn't have removed anything before consulting me, but they did very, very shortly after give me an updated plan with more native plantings in the 100-foot buffer. So it's not related to the coastal bank restoration. It's just regular landscaping. And then for other updates, Zero Beechwood, this is one of our enforcement orders. We're into year 1 of the monitoring. This is a guy that took out a lot of trees in the wetland, the 50 and the 100-foot buffer on a large parcel on Beechwood Street. If you guys remember, Steve, I don't think you were here for this, but it was it's pretty awkward to get several phone calls that over 30+ trees have been removed. And so we had a huge restoration plan for that, monitored by Brad Holmes, one of the wetland scientists that works in the South Shore. And all the plants look good. I did notice one tree that is struggling to survive, but we'll just keep an eye on it. Like, it may bounce back, and if it doesn't, he obviously has, he has to replace it. But all the other trees look great. The erosion control wildlife seed mix that we planted has taken off, and the whole field is completely wild. He's still mowing the path to get to the rest of the plantings, which I'm okay with because it's only in the 100, it's not in the 50. Eventually he hopefully will submit a permit to just get permanent permission to maintain that path, because there wasn't any easement about that that we could find. And then for the hazardous tree policy, I don't know,
Wait a minute. I have a comment about that.
Yeah, sure.
Didn't we require that he irrigate that?
Yes.
And he has then.
Yes.
So this, our drought hasn't erased all of his hard work.
Yep. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why he's still keeping the mowed path, because we have to get to all the trees in the back. And if you don't mow a path, it's pretty much impossible to get to a lot of those plantings. So
Yeah.
I'm actually glad it's
So,
there.
so in general, Charlotte, do you think that it looks pretty good and it's going to be a success?
I hope so. I mean, Brad also has said that the plants are all doing well, and the plants were installed using someone that Brad works with very frequently, who knows how to plant trees correctly. So the trees definitely look great. I admit I wasn't able to see all the shrubs because that whole area is getting overgrown in general with invasive and native at this point. Now you have native stuff competing with it. But overall, the wildlife, there were also those wildlife markers that were also bird houses. So that was an addition to the site. But yeah, the whole site is fully vegetated now. It doesn't look like that, wasteland with all the cut stuff. So it does, other than one tree, it looked like that all the stuff is taking pretty nicely. We'll just have to, we're going to be monitoring it for the next couple of years though. So.
Okay, so I'd suggest that the tree policy discussion be postponed until Chris and Sanji are with us.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question for you, because the next meeting on November 21st, we only got 2 new projects. I have not had time to write violation letters for other things going on in town, so I'm probably not going to make it for this meeting. And also it's close to Thanksgiving, so I figured let's keep this meeting short. But I can try my best to draft. I have like bullet points right now, but I can try to draft what I think might be a good idea for a hazardous or administrative tree policy. And I can put that in OneDrive for you guys. So maybe we could spend the second half of the meeting just talking about what we think. We don't have to finalize it, but since we'll have a short meeting, most likely, there's only 4 items on the list, and then the 1 COC for 87 and 124 Elm Street. So that's a short meeting for us.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Great.
So I will hold off on that for tonight because I haven't even drafted it yet. But obviously, if you guys are, if you guys hear of any towns, or if you guys want me to look into what other towns are doing, I have in that folder that I shared with you guys. Those are the towns I've looked at so far. But if you guys are like, oh, hey, I know this town's really good, look at Hopkinton or something, you know what I mean? Like, just let me know. And we can always tweak it. It's not like it's set in stone for the rest of our lives. It's, I mean, yeah. If we're going to do it, I want to do it right the first time and then only modify it slightly afterwards. So,
So Charlotte, I have a question about the use of fertilizers and herbicides in a buffer zone. If we've never issued a NOI or rather an order of conditions for a property, I guess, let me put it simply, is everybody bound by this, whether they've been ordered and received an order of conditions for one thing or another?
Oh, sorry. Are you saying like no herbicides and stuff in the buffer zone? People are bound by it for a COC?
No, not by a COC or anything. I mean, if let's say you own a property that has a buffer zone within it, or your property is in a buffer zone partially or fully, but you've never come before us for any reason, are you still bound by this town regulation?
Yes.
So
yeah,
of course,
it says it in our regulations. You're not allowed to use that stuff in the buffer zone or a resource area.
okay. So in other words, what I've been seeing then is definitely those are violations.
Yes, those are violations. And I think you mentioned, so I'm sorry, I still have to look at 191 Atlantic. I think Kathy, you had mentioned 387 Jerusalem. And then Tom, did you just send me one today?
I did.
Okay. Was that Sheldon Road? Is
Yeah.
that near Sandy Beach? No. Wait.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yes. It's a couple of houses down from the Sandy Beach.
Okay.
A couple of houses east of the Sandy Beach entryway.
And you saw them spraying stuff?
Yeah. I
Okay.
did.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't get the name on the truck, but
Okay. Yeah, and I was gonna say, if you guys see that in town, if you guys can get the name of the company, that would be awesome, because
and I did look at the buffer where the buffer was, and they definitely in the buffer. The 100
Yeah,
foot.
no, I'll definitely take a look at those. I've been probably try to
So
drive around.
I would think we don't want to see a show cause there, because they're,
Just a
they're probably
warning?
just not aware of it. Yeah, just
Warning?
information. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's
for
something,
the one, now the one on Atlantic Avenue, he's well aware of the order of conditions.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's a new homeowner, but
Oh, really?
well, the property was sold. I don't think the
Oh,
original
okay,
guy
so they
who
may,
built the
so they
house-
may not be aware of it either. Just give them a heads up that
Okay.
they've got an order of conditions that goes with the house.
Okay.
They-
Yeah, we have
They can stop fertilizing their lawn right now.
yes. So actually, if we have a short meeting, what I might do if I have time is we have our violations tracker, which I update quarterly.
Yeah.
So I might share that with you guys for the meeting,
Okay.
depending on how much time we have. I'd like to go over the hazardous tree stuff more, but if we have extra time, I can go through the tracker or see if you guys have any questions. But I think it's definitely worth, like, for first timers who haven't come to us before, I think a warning letter for the herbicide stuff, I think, is acceptable because people don't know, you know, and like these
right.
companies are all, I
But
don't know.
this is the time of year, they're not using necessarily herbicides, but
They
people
might
are
see
getting their lawns fertilized.
Yeah.
this
So
time of
I
year.
think,
They'll-
I think
and
a
they'll do it
warning is,
again in spring. So,
yeah,
it, I don't think it's a coincidence that I saw two in the same week.
Nope, probably neighbor referrals. But yeah, I think a warning the first time around. And like I said, in the time that I don't have, I would love to come up with a lot of do's and don'ts of landscaping and trees. And I would really like to work with a few residents in town have actually volunteered for this, but I would like to mail that stuff out to people. I know that's a lot of work, but eventually that's my goal because I feel like the more people are informed,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, there's going to be those people that are like, oh, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. And I'm just going to risk not getting caught. But I think the majority of people really do want to follow the rules. They just don't know what those rules are. And, you know, I'm only one person in this department, you know, aside from obviously Angela. So, I mean, I'm not always out and about educating people. So a lot of people really don't know. And yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of towns have really great educational resources. Like if you look at Falmouth and the Cape, like, oh my God, their website puts our website to shame. It's so sad. So yeah.
About education.
I
Always
know
is.
that's really what this town needs. I think the more people know, the more people are informed, and then the less likely they are to break the rules.
Yeah, it's the serial violators that we need to
Oh, yeah.
have show cause hearings for,
Yeah.
but the rest of them just need everybody needs a heads up. Hey,
Yeah.
those trees may be on your property, but you can't cut them without talking to us
Yeah,
first.
yeah. So do's and don'ts for tree stuff, and then for land stuff and for pool stuff. So those are things. Oh, and then floats on the marsh. Actually, I will say 2 sites that I had been meaning to write letters to have both removed their floats from the marsh because they were ancient. They've been there a while. They disassembled them and took them away. And so 2 down. But yeah, eventually, I know we talked about this, that I wanted to send letters to everybody who owns a dock and just educate people about that. I know I missed the time frame this year because right now everyone's taking out their floats and their gangways, and like I missed it. But eventually, I do want to time that before people take their stuff out.
They just took a big one out of Little Harbor yesterday.
Yeah, I saw. I think I heard. I think the harbor master let me know. But yeah. But luckily, it's definitely been a word of mouth thing with a lot of residents in town. Once I tell people that they can't do it, people are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. And, you know, they figure out a plan. There have even been people who are thinking of getting docks. And I do note that. I said, okay, do you have a plan of how you're going to remove this? And people like, again, it's not something that everyone thinks of. They're like, oh, I was just going to put it on the marsh. Nope, can't do that. So, you know, yeah, it's a slow progress. But eventually, I think the more Cohasset's informed, the less likely they're going to.
Well, maybe for some people, that additional cost will deter them from actually getting one.
Yeah, hopefully.
We have way too many of them in this town.
There's way too many, but you can't stop it at this point. So, no. I mean, you just have to follow the regulations as long as they're following the performance standards and not, So, but yeah, there've been some people who've approached me about trying to do like local docks. The problem is the lack of access from the town's end in Little Harbor specifically. So like we can't, unless we get some sort of easement through somebody's property, which I don't think anybody would allow us to do, we can't really do a town dock into Little Harbor. There is a way to do it across the street from Atlantic Ave through the marsh from Sandy Beach, but that's a really long dock. and pier and boardwalk, but people already walk through the marsh with their dogs in that area, which is awful, but apparently people do it. So I think a town dock or boardwalk would be beneficial there, but again, who's going to pay for it? You got to get grants, you know,
I walk on it all the time.
you walk on it? Well, not with your dog, I hope.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but does he poop in the marsh? Because that's a lot of people are,
Oh,
yeah.
no, I bag it.
Okay, yeah, people are leaving like dog bags and
Oh,
stuff.
I know.
Yeah,
I frequently pick up those bags.
yep. Wampatuck's really bad. If you guys ever see Wampatuck, it's awful. Anyway, so yeah, I will put the hazardous tree stuff on the list for next meeting, because next meeting's pretty short. So also
Okay.
great job, guys, with timing.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. You
thanks,
guys got through
thanks
it
for
really long.
covering for me, Tom. Since our last
Yeah.
hearing, I took kind of a little spill and it's been tough getting everything back into shape, and I traveled a little bit. So I really appreciate you jumping in on a difficult hearing tonight. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Not a problem. Get
Yeah,
better.
Valerio, are you you said you were traveling. Are you
I did. I
okay?
went down to, I went to DC, but like then getting back was harder than I thought.
Mhm.
And I've just had this broken wrist and bruised ribs have just been really difficult. So, but
Ugh, ribs are
by
the
our next hearing, I'll be 100%. Yeah, ribs are the worst. But I'll be 100% by next hearing.
Oh, okay. Well, take it easy. Thank you
Yeah.
again, Tom, for covering.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Does anyone have
Do I
48-hour issues? Are you guys good? I'm good with 48 hours this time.
Good.
What?
Do you guys have any 48-hour issues? That was the
Oh.
last thing on the
No,
agenda.
I'm all set.
No, I haven't. I don't have anything.
All right.
All right. So last motion of the night is motion to adjourn.
Mhm.
Second.
Second.
Everybody in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. See ya.
Awesome.
Thank
All
Good
you.
right.
night, Tom. Good night, all. Thanks,
Have a great
good
night.
night, everybody.
Valerio, get better soon.
I
Yeah.
will. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Bye.
take care, guys. Bye.